friends, and how have you been? How have you been doing? So ଭଲ ଚାଲିଛି? Screen share ହେଇଛି by the way?
No, sir.
Okay, I think it's shared now, right? ଏବେ ଦେଖାଉଛି screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. So how is it going? Everything fine? Optional ସାରିଦିଅ ଦେଖ ମୁଁ ବାର ବାର କହୁଛି ଜାନୁଆରୀ ମୁଁ ଆଉ କହିବିନି. So consider January maybe at max January first week till the last phase of your optional. तो ता भितर सारिथे because तापरे आउ टाइम ही होबनी, right? And January में हमरो बहुत सारा classes हो. Okay, so we'll complete all of those. So anyway, let's move on to the topic today. Ethics and human interface. By the way, आमे जो second class करथिलु ethics रो, okay, so that was also part of that was actually also comes under this chapter. So ethics and human interface, if you see the syllabus, it's around 20% of it we have already covered. For example, you see here the essence, determinants and consequences. Determinants and consequences I am already कर दीजिए. So we'll see, and in few other topics of the syllabus also we have already in the second class we have done some part of it, correct? We'll see. So today we are going to study this part, ethics and human interface. So these are the standard definitions about ethics. Actually हुआ कौन कि ethics रो beginning ही chapter रू हुए, but आमे टिके different way रे start करथिलु. So आमे ethics रो answer writing रू start करिकी आमे देखिथिलु कि what are the sources of ethics, what are the consequences or contributions of ethics to individual well-being and to social well-being, right? So in that sense this should be the second part of that class. Okay, car audio on ଅଛି, kindly mute it. All right, so ethics ro standard definition, set of standards that guide our thinking and behavior. You can also write thinking, choices and action. So action comes under behavior, thinking and choices are separate points. It also helps us to distinguish between right and wrong. This is the highest standard against which we judge human actions, etc., etc. We had already discussed what is ethics. So to come to this chapter, meaning of ethics, sources of ethics, including sources of ethics, I discussed agents of socialization, contributions of ethics. So all of these come under this chapter itself. So we had already covered a part of it. Now let's come to this part. What is the first thing? Essence. Okay, let us see what is the essence of ethics. Can you tell me what do you mean by essence? Essence from Manis India kono, by the way?
Basic
I already
structure.
kept basic structure.
Yes,
Basic
the most
structure.
essential part of something, the core value of something.
Right, that was the term I was looking for. Means what is the core of ethics, right? So in that second class we had already discussed. For example, if you see under the core of ethics, one can also ask you what are the sources, and there we had discussed that it is partly innate, right? That is, one is born with it. In part, it is also partly learned. For that is, it is from external environment, and it is also partly choice. That is, it is also free will. Okay. So you have sometimes you have choice, sometimes it is learned from outside, sometimes it is also born. For example, many people who are maybe not very learned, it's okay, they still have ethics, they have morality. If you say कि केवल education through रही morality आसे, so that will mean कि the vast number of Indians as well as people outside who for some reason they did not have the privilege of education, you are saying that they are unethical. So that is of course not acceptable. So it is sometimes partly innate, it is learned, it is as well as it is also a choice, right? ଆମେ ଗୋଟେ ଏମିତି କରିଥିଲୁ equation ମନେ ଅଛି, innate plus learned plus free will, right? Free will or choice. So you can draw this figure also, ethics equals to, you can draw this equation. This is my equation, this is not in any book. Okay, Now second part we can see ki what is also the nature of ethics. Okay, what is the nature of ethics? If you want, and you should actually take running notes, otherwise also you will, of course after every class we provide you the notes, but it's better if you take running notes. So if we see what is the nature of ethics, ethics or nature kono. If you see, ethics is, it's not actually, sometimes we feel that it is fixed, but actually it is not fixed. Many times it is relative. For example, there are many cultural differences in ethics. Both cultural differences achi. Now someone will ask cultural differences in ethics kono. Now for example, if you see gender justice, okay, you see how in different countries, okay, in for example in developed countries versus in developing countries, what is the difference you will see? Of course, in developed countries there is greater level of gender justice. In developing countries in general, we can say that there is lesser degree of developing, sorry, gender justice. Okay, so what is this, what's the meaning of this term? That whether the, specifically this means that women and other genders, not men, okay, women and other genders, whether they are having, our audio on kindly muted, whether they are getting equal resources, opportunities, as well as decision making power. Okay. Also, it is also sometimes known as agency. So resources, opportunities, and agencies. Resources, one, for example, whether budgetary allocation is equal, going in equal part to them or not. Opportunities means, for example, jobs, whether they are being given enough amount, sorry, at least enough opportunity to have jobs, and whether they have agency or decision making power at home as well as in the society. If you see, of course, in developing countries, the level will be less. So there is a cultural difference. But even if we don't talk about gender justice in this way, so chalo, some suppose you will say that this is due to some socio-economic issues. You think of values, cultural values. Can we say that cultural values will also differentiate, can be differentiated between these two worlds? For example, if you see, what is the difference in cultural values of collectivistic societies and what is the difference in cultural values of individualistic societies? You will always see कि collectivistic society रे सबले एई भलिया value को importance primacy दिया हबो, which is for community welfare, okay, or community benefit or welfare. They will also always give priority to social cohesion in the society academy. Whereas in individual society, they will give importance to liberty or freedom, right? They will give importance to innovation, okay, they will give importance to, for example, free speech. So there is a difference in cultural values as well. Similarly, if you see between different, some culture specific ethical values are also there. Now you'll say, what is culture specific ethical values? For example, if you consider a value like lajja, okay, आमे जोटा हिंदी और ओडिया रे लज्जा कहू, तो आगुरु कुहा होतला कि दिस इज अ वर्च्यू फॉर वुमेन, है ना? I think we had also discussed about this. Now this is a very uniquely Indian or specifically South Asian concept, okay? And this concept is usually not found in other parts of the world. Now why should this be a virtue for women? हमको कहा जाए कि लज्जा होचे नारीर भूषण. Now someone will say कि काहे कि why is this gender specific ethical value? काहे कि एटा कुहा हबनी कि लज्जा होची पुरुषर भूषण. So in men you are considering it as something unwanted, but in women you are considering it as wanted. So why this difference? If something is universal, if something is of a great thing, okay, if something is a good value, good virtue, okay, then it should be universal. That means everyone should have it. हमें यदि कहा honesty, honesty should be there in men as well as there in women. Why should one say कि only women ମାନଙ୍କ ପାଇଁ specific virtue गुड़ा अछि, एटा men ମାନଙ୍କ ପାଇଁ specific virtue अछि? But for a long time this was considered माने part of virtue for Indian women specifically, right? Right now चला धीरे धीरे जेतले माने societal evolution होउची, ethical thinking रे changes आछी, एबे आमे कहूची कि ना एमती gender specific value को रखियार point किछि नै. Rather, if you are saying कि bravery, suppose you are saying कि bravery or courage, that this is a virtue for men. Now we are saying why should this only be a virtue for men? It should also be the virtue for women. Right? Now this seems gender neutral, but this seems gender specific. So is there a difference in ethics across culture or not? Now I knowingly did not go into this kind of ethical debate. I know कि हमें जो ethical differences in culture कहले तो mind को ये सब जिनसे भी आस्तो सती प्रथा, right? You would be thinking of dowry, you would be thinking of casteism. The point is these are very easy to strike down, in the sense कि easy to morally strike down. I'm not saying socially तो हमको difficult ହେଲା morally ସମସ୍ତଙ୍କୁ ଏଟା clearly ଜଣା ପଡୁଛି ସତୀଟା ହଉଛି wrong, dowry ଟା wrong, casteism is wrong. But point is कि even when we knew this was wrong, still we continued it for a very very long time. So from present perspective, when we look back to the past, then we can say कि चलो ये आगुरु ये जो practices थिला these were inhuman, and now we can say कि this is immoral. But remember, one can also criticize this as a term which is known as presentism, कि present रो lens through रे हमें past को देखुचे बोली. Okay. But yes, we can so moral relativist माने कहिबे moral relativism जो माने कहंती से माने कहिबे कि who are we to judge them? Suppose past रे ସେମାନେ जदि सेमतिया काम करथिले because that was because of their particular society at that time, ସେତେବେଳର societal value ରେ. But moral absolutist माने जो माने they will say कि नहीं this was wrong means this was wrong. Okay. So these examples also you can write, but the point is almost everyone will be writing these examples under this point. So you write some better points like lajja, bravery. Okay, how collectivistic societies differ from individualistic societies. Right. By the way, just to give you an exception, गोटे कथा कहूँ आम ये जो आर्ग्यूमेंट कले ना जे डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज वर्सेस डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज, it I only said कि usually it is not always that this will happen. We expect that with development, with economic growth, there would be human development, and with human development, inequality will reduce. Therefore, there would be justice for both genders. But sometimes it also happens that depending on the typical country, many country specific factors, it might not hold true. For example, if you see in Japan, Japan is developed, but it is also a deeply patriarchal society. Till now, the level of patriarchy there is very high. Okay, although they are more developed, much more developed than India. Right? So this is just an exception. One might think of some exceptions and say कि this does not hold true, but that's a different point. एपର୍ଯ୍यନ୍ତ बुझी होची कौन कथा चली?
Yes, sir.
Hello, sir. Patriarchy means, sir?
Patriarchy means a society which is male dominated. Okay. Patriarchy means, say for example, matriarchy. तार opposite होता है matriarchy. Matriarchy होची female dominated. For example, in general, we'll say कि our society is a patriarchal society. Indian society is patriarchal society in general, because देखियो ଆମ family रे भी major decision usually that is being taken by the father, or then father ପରେ ତାଙ୍କ son, ଏସବୁ ଜିନିଷ decision will be taken by them. But within in India also you will see in some many tribal cultures you will see that their family is matriarchal. ସେଠି ତାଙ୍କ mothers ମାନେ usually they have more decision making power. Okay. And their society economy that is more geared towards মানে women centric. For example, if you go to northeastern India also, you will see that most of the businesses there are being done by the women. Okay. So in that sense also we can say that it is a matriarchal society. And matriarchy both relates to decision making as well as resources, opportunities, जहाँ जहाँ हमें पूर्व डिस्कस करते ये सब गुड़ा कहा द्वारा डोमिनेट होची, यदि मेजरली डोमिनेट होची मेन द्वारा, then it will be called patriarchy. If it is being dominated by women, then it will be called matriarchy. So next come to this term ethnocentrism. Try to understand what this means. ना हमें तो कथा ली cultural differences अच्छी. So next point one would think कि ethics point of view, is it possible that जनकर cultural perspective रू जन को लगे गोटे जिनसटा ethical बोली, आउ जन को अन्य culture को perspective रू ताको सही same लोग को लगे कि सही जिनसटा भूल बोली. And yes, it happens. And this frame of reference is known as ethnocentrism. So frame of reference, which is your own culture. Okay. So ଯେତେବେଳେ ଆମର frame of reference ଆମର own culture ହେଇଯାଏ and ଏଇଟାକୁ ଆମେ normal ବୋଲି ଆମେ ତାକୁ ଆଖ୍ୟା ଦଉ, ଆମେ କହୁ କି ଏଇଟା ହିଁ normal, ତେଣୁ ଅନ୍ୟ ମାନଙ୍କର other culture ଟା ହେଲା abnormal। ଏଇ ଯୋଉ judgment ଟା ଆମେ କଲୁ value judgment, this is a value judgment, this value judgment is known as ethnocentrism। So what this means, let me give you an example। Suppose only recently I was seeing this thing, by the way, just came to my mind। ମୁଁ ଏମିତି ବାସ୍ usually ମୁଁ social media use କରେନି, just check କରିଦେଲେ Facebook ରେ ଗୋଟେ ବହୁତ ସାରା ଓଡିଆ ପେଜ ରେ ସବୁ ନ୍ୟୁଜ ଆସେ। ଗୋଟେ ପେଜ ରେ ବି ରିସେଣ୍ଟଲି ନ୍ୟୁଜ ଆସିଥିଲା କି ଭୁବନେଶ୍ୱରରେ କିଛି ଗୋଟେ ଫେଷ୍ଟିଭାଲ ଚାଲିଛି, ସେଠି ଗୋଟେ ଝିଅଟେ ସେ, you might have seen this in other countries, it happens ki some people are standing with a placard free hugs। free hugs mean kiଏ ବି ଆସି ତାଙ୍କୁ hug କରିପାରିବ। so they are sending a positivity, okay, positive message to the society। so ଭୁବନେଶ୍ୱରରେ some girl is doing this and ତାର ଭିଡିଓ ଯୋଉ ଆସିଛି ସେଥିରେ ଆମ ଓଡିଆ ଲୋକମାନେ କମେଣ୍ଟ କରିଛନ୍ତି କି ଇଏ ହଉଛି ଆମ ସଂସ୍କୃତି ବିରୋଧରେ ଇଏ ହଉଛି ଏଇଟା ଡିଜେନେରେଟ କଲଚର, ୟୁ ନୋ ୱେଷ୍ଟର୍ନ ସୋସାଇଟି ଆସିକି ଆମକୁ ଖରାପ କରିଦଉଛି, ଏ ଝିଅର ମା ବାପା ତାକୁ କିଛି ଶିଖେଇ ନାହାନ୍ତି, କିଛି ଲାଇକ୍ ଦ୍ୟାଟ 90% କମେଣ୍ଟସ୍ will be like that in general। ତୁମେ ଯଦି ଓଡିଆ ପେଜ କିମ୍ବା ଓଡିଆ ଫେସବୁକ୍, ମାନେ ଆଇ ପର୍ସନାଲି ଫିଲ୍ କି ଏନି ରିଜନାଲ ଲାଙ୍ଗୁଏଜ ର କିଛି ତୁମେ ଫେସବୁକ୍ ପେଜେସ୍ କୁ ଯିବ, the comment section will make you depressed for at least 1 year। okay, so why they are making such kind of comments? The point is key, it is very likely that they have not experienced any other culture except their own। ସେମାନେ ତାଙ୍କର ନିଜ କଲଚର ର ଫ୍ରେମ ଅଫ ରେଫରେନ୍ସ ରେ ଆମ ସବୁ କଲଚର କୁ ଜଜ କରୁଛନ୍ତି। and the worst part is that even what they think is their own culture is actually not that kind of thing। ମାନେ ସେମାନଙ୍କର ଯୋଉ idea of their own culture ଅଛି ନା, it might be actually different from what their real culture would be saying। okay, for example, if you think of Odia culture as Jagannath culture, Jagannath culture is very tolerant, Jagannath culture is not discriminative। if someone is showing affection in this way, what is the harm? why did our culture ever say कि ଆମେ ଏମିତି ଲୋକମାନଙ୍କୁ ଖରାପ way ରେ behave କରିବୁ? so what is the issue here? because their distorted sense of cultural frame of reference is there, so they think that others are abnormal। okay, we are normal, others are abnormal। but again, uh, for example, think of any foreigner, suppose they are coming to India and they are saying कि Indian ମାନେ ଆମେ ହାତରେ ଖାଉଛୁ। if they feel disgusted, ସେମାନେ କହେ କି यार ଏମାନେ uncivilized, ମାନେ ହାତରେ directly ଖାଉଛନ୍ତି, ଆମକୁ ଜଣା ନାହିଁ spoon ରେ ଖାଇବା କଥା। so this is also an example of ethnocentrism। now we'll say କି they are being ethnocentric with regard to their own culture। okay, ଏବେ ତାଙ୍କ culture ଟାକୁ ସେମାନେ normal ବୋଲି ଭାବିକି ଅନ୍ୟ culture କୁ abnormal ବୋଲି judge କରୁଛନ୍ତି। okay, are you able to understand? now the point is, can we counter this? by the way, यार ଯଦି ଆମେ ଦେଖିବା what is the solution to this kind of value judgment? one example you can say ki, suppose this is one idea is known as acculturation। acculturation through रे ହେଇପାରିବ। acculturation କଣ? suppose one person is meeting another culture and they will pick up some cultural values, so that will force them to change their own values। for example, ଏଇ ଯୋଉ ଲୋକମାନେ ଏମିତି କମେଣ୍ଟ ଦଉଥିଲେ, it is likely that ଆମେ ଯଦି ତାଙ୍କୁ ନେଇକି କିଛି କିଛି ବର୍ଷ ତାଙ୍କୁ ଯଦି ବାହାରେ କୋଉ ଗୋଟେ ସୋସାଇଟିରେ ରଖିବା which is more liberal, when they come back they will also they will change some of their own biases। so this thing is also related to what we discussed as social remittance। remember society class ରେ ବି ଆମେ discuss କରିଥିଲୁ, right? okay, now come to acha kon ଆମେ କରିଥିଲୁ, first point was nature of ethics। okay, cultural differences। now another point of ethics would be that it is useful। okay, ଆମେ ଏବେ nature of ethics ଦେଖୁଛେ और essence of ethics ଦେଖୁଛେ। essence of ethics ର ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ point ହେଲା କି ethics is useful। now can you tell me how is it useful?
Decision making।
very good, rather I had told you ki,
Trust building,
very good, what else? I told you that you can divide this set into broadly two parts। if you want further ଆମେ sub categorization भी କରିପାରିବା। ଆମେ କହିବା individual level ରେ, then କହିବା family level ରେ, then କହିବା community level ରେ, then କହିବା society level ରେ, finally country level ରେ, national level ରେ। but broadly you can also divide this into individual as well as community or society, right? So ଆମେ କହିବା ethics କେମିତି useful individual ପାଇଁ, we have discussed most of these things. ଏଟା ଆମେ କୋଉ
Hello,
point ରେ
sir.
discuss करली? हाँ हाँ
हेलो सर ह्यूमानिटी ହେଇପାରିବ ନା?
humanity କହିଲେ ମାନେ କଣ ବୁଝୁଛ, ମାନେ what do you want to explain actually?
ହଁ ସାର୍ ଏଥିରେ ହ୍ୟୁମାନିଟି ଯିବ କି ସେଥିରେ ୟୁଜଫୁଲ ପାଇଁ ନୈତିକତା
ନା ନା
ଦୃଷ୍ଟିରୁ?
ମୁଁ ମାନେ ମୁଁ ତ ଏଟା ପଚାରୁଛି କି ethics is useful for humanity is there? तो humanity कहले what exactly are you meaning? Okay, what let us say कि helpful to humanity in the sense at the community level it is beneficial. For example, you can say कि if all people are ethical, then society will be developed or there will be peace and prosperity. Okay, in that sense yes, it our community level ला ହେଇପାରିବ, right? Individual level ରେ decision making, right? Individual level ରେ it can also help to resolve your ethical dilemmas, right? What else can it help you to do? Society level ରେ economic growth ରେ help କରିବ. So you will see many of these points we had already discussed in the second class under contributions of ethics, right? So refer to that PDF. एथिरे हमें बहुत सारा डिटेल ले कथा हेतु एथिरे हमें कथा हेतु spiritual well-being,
eudaimonia,
very good. Mental well-being, एथिरे हमें कथा हेतु stress and anxiety less रहिबो, right? Depression ए सब जिंस आसीबो नाही. Eudaimonia or happiness, happiness including true happiness, so that is what is known as eudaimonia, right? Community level le kon kon, why it is useful, can you tell me? Conducive environment for growth,
harmony,
very good. Communal harmony, right?
sustainable development,
Okay,
Gender justice.
very good. Gender justice, we'll say कि in general law and order को भी help करियो. If you are more ethical, then you will have less amount of law and order problem, right? Less level of law and order problem. Can you also say that law and order में हमें जो regulation, regulatory functions of ethics, we can talk about that. So let us talk a bit about this thing. This is a very important point. There are a few other points you can refer to the second class PDF. So if you are talking about functions of ethics under this, why it is useful? The functions of ethics, if you see, कि ethics रे भी किसी functionality है which are practical. So one of the main such functions is actually it helps to maintain law and order, or indirectly it helps to regulation of society. Okay. Now there is a very funny quotation. Seneca had said this. For example, he had said that religion is regarded by the common people as true. Okay. So common people say it is true. It is regarded by the wise as false, and it is regarded by the rulers as useful. Seneca had said this. Can we say the same thing about ethics? Point is we cannot say. Okay. So if you can say this thing about religion, why common people think it is true? Because they don't do critical analysis. Wise people know it is false because religion is different from spirituality. Spirituality is something higher. So spirituality is a very good thing. But rulers consider this part. Rulers consider it useful. Why? Because rulers know that if people have religion, then they will be easy to subjugate and they will be easy to regulate. So this is again regulatory function. Similarly, you can quote, I think Karl Marx had said this. Karl Marx ने की बदले, religion is the opium of the masses, right? But can
yes
we
sir,
say,
Karl Marx said it.
Yes, sir,
right?
Karl Marx.
So can we say the similar thing about ethics? This is my point. If you are saying that this is useful, law and order को maintain କରିବା ପାଇଁ religion is useful, can you say, for example, ethics is also same? That common people think it is true, but wise think it is false. Here,
No sir,
these two things will be true, but here this point will not be true. For in the case of ethics, because even wise people will understand that ethics is not false. Ethics is in fact, it is the real happiness. true happiness, जोटा हमें eudaimonia भी कहो. So this is the functionality. Let me tell you another example, very very good example. Suppose culture और ethics विषय. There was an anthropologist, जो मनकर anthropology थी वो सामान्य जानी थी वे. His name was Malinowski. Now just listen to this, गोटा story भाव रे सुनो. Malinowski कौन कले से गोटा Trobriand Island बोली गोटा island पे दिवाले. Okay. So he was studying tribal society. ट्राइबल सोसाइटी को से पढ़ी भापले कि हमें ट्राइबल सोसाइटी को एग्जामिन करिया देन वी विल बी एबल बेटर एबल टू अंडरस्टैंड कि हाउ ह्यूमन कल्चर हैज इवॉल्वड. तो तले ट्रोब्रियांड आइलैंड को गले एटा होची वेस्टर्न पैसिफिक रो गोटे छोटा छोटा आइलैंड, बहुत सारा आइलैंड एमती अच्छी गोटे जगह रे, ता भीतर गोटे सिंगल आइलैंड ट्रोब्रियांड आइलैंड. से गोटे बहुत गोटे इंटरेस्टिंग जिंस देखिले, से देखिले कि तांकर एवरी ईयर से गोटे फंक्शन टाइप रो गोटे इवेंट हुए जोतरे कि एई आइलैंड रो लोक माने कोन करंती निजे हैंडमेड डंगा रे गोटे आइलैंड रो अन्य आइलैंड को एमती सब जाई कि छोटो छोटो ट्रिंकेट्स मींस ऑलमोस्ट यूजलेस आइटम को से गिफ्ट हिसाब रे दियंती. व्हिच आर द यूजलेस आइटम्स, कोकोनट हे गला, शेल हे गला, जो सामुका कोळ हे गला, तो एटा जाई कि समस्त को दियंती. नाउ ये जो जर्नी इटसेल्फ दैट इज वेरी डेंजरस एंड दे आर अंडरटेकिंग दिस इन ए हैंडमेड बोट्स. सो मालिनोस्की भाबले कि एत्ते से माने रिस्क नहीं कि सब जिंस काहे करछन, व्हाट इज द फंक्शन ऑफ दिस प्रैक्टिस. देन ही अंडरस्टूड इट, से डीपली एग्जामिन कले, से देखिले गोटे जिंस नोटिस कले कि दिस ए जो फंक्शन टा होची ना, सॉरी ए जो इवेंट टा होची एथरे यूजुअली जो माने से कल्चर रो जो माने हीरोज who have done some remarkable things, they are being allowed to go into this kind of journey. And जो माने criminals अछंती, जो माने जो मनकर खराब पर्सनालिटी अछि, जो माने किछि भूल काम करछन, even they also have murder, they also have stealing, so they are being banned or they are being boycotted from this thing. जब हमको boycott करा होची, they are feeling sad, so this works as a sort of punishment. ना मालिनोस्की सडनली रियलाइज कि तो ट्राइबल सोसाइटी रे जोठी कोर्ट नाही, जोठी पुलिस नाही, सेठी से लॉ एंड ऑर्डर मेंटेन केमती करिवे. दे विल मेंटेन लॉ एंड ऑर्डर थ्रू दीज काइंड ऑफ कल्चरल प्रैक्टिसेस. आर यू एबल टू अंडरस्टैंड दिस और नॉट? वेरी वेरी इंपोर्टेंट थिंग टू अंडरस्टैंड. जे जो सोसाइटी रे पुलिस नाही, कोर्ट नाही, किसी इंस्टीट्यूशन नाही, सेठी से माने कल्चरल इंस्टीट्यूशन स्टार्ट करिवे. एंड कल्चर देयर विल प्ले द रोल ऑफ एथिक्स. In the lesser developed societies, culture will play the role of ethics, right? So can we say that in this way also ethics is useful? Ethics of utility achi, right? And if you want, you can read also very interesting book Malinowski गोटे बहिटा लिखले, बहुत ही भलो बहिटा, ऑल्दो से बहिटा बेसी पब्लिश होने, ताको ऑर्डर करिया भी डिफिकल्ट हो. He had written this Argonauts of the Western Pacific, very interesting book. जे एक्स्ट्रा टाइम रे सो जिंस पढे भल लागियो. So this is the point, this is the role of ethics, this is one of the essence of ethics. Yes, किए से पचार छु नहीं? ओके, कोई नहीं. Then next point हमें देखिए essence रे. So essence एटा कंटिन्यू करछि. Now when we are talking about law and order, let us also try to examine what is the difference between law and ethics. Sometimes directly a question 10 mark करी पचारे जे करे, what is the difference between law and ethics, whether law is grounded in ethics or not. ए वाला किसी को क्वेश्चन आस्कर, right? So of course we understand that usually law and ethics will have some overlap, right? So this is law, this is ethics. So these are which is both legal as well as ethical. But many times you understand that sometimes a law may not be ethical, and sometimes what is ethical may not be legal, right? So can you give an example where something is ethical, sorry, this side ram likhe na, legal but unethical, legal but unethical, and which are examples which are ethical but illegal or non-legal? Give me some examples.
Sir, apartheid can be legal but unethical.
Very good. In
Or
that
slavery.
regime, in that regime where it is mandated by the law, so in that
Yes.
society we can say that it is legal but unethical. Slavery is there, correct? Casteism, if you don't have any law against casteism, but it is there, so that will also be there. What else?
Sir, abortion legal but
Abortion, is it unethical? You're going into
It is
very dangerous
debatable.
territory. You will suddenly alienate half of our population. See, where you will see, so you tell me where, in which case abortion is unethical. Okay. Who
sir,
case unethical?
it's a killing of an infant are unethical see perspective.
Okay. dangerous.
gender basis sir, gender basis रे जदि killing होची then that is unethical.
Okay, so you are talking about feticide, right? Yes,
Sir, even
that is
जब
unethical.
irresponsible activity द्वारा मैंने pregnant होते हैं then and क्या से
Okay, chalo, seta भी कही पारिया. Again, all of these are morally very gray, morally gray areas. Okay, but okay, now right now I also need some opinions from girls. Please tell me what you think. Whether abortion is unethical or ethical. What do you think? I think here at least we should give primacy to the girls, na? But tell us your opinions.
Sir, it depends upon the situation or circumstances. If it is in case of rape and the girl becomes pregnant, then it is a totally a hard decision to keep it or not. Or if it hampers her
Correct.
mental state, she
Correct.
should go for it, and other cases like that.
Right. For example, we'll say that if the child is being due to sorry, the conception is due to sexual assault, then abortion is justified. If the after the conception, if there is any medical health issues, okay, health issues of the women, कि तार of say mother ही life जाई पारे, then we'll say कि okay, this is ethical, we can do abortion. Now it is a very gray zone area कि suppose what someone is talking about premarital sex, whether या द्वारा जोड़ा ହେଇଥିବ ସେଟାକୁ abortion କରିବା ଠିକ କି ନାହିଁ. Again, don't write in the exam कि yes, this is justified. So cannot just write such a blanket statement. Okay, there are many grounds. So abortion is a very controversial topic. There we cannot say immediately कि this is legal or this is sorry, this is unethical. But there are some other examples that we clearly can say which is legal but unethical. Okay, for example, if you say कि you are hurting someone, okay, using your free speech, so abuse of free speech. So if even if it is not in the scale of starting a riot or something, but you are hurting someone, suppose you hurt your parents, so now that is legal also. Yes, that is not illegal. No one can take any legal action against you, but it is unethical. You should not say that kind of thing. Similarly, suppose if you are not taking care of your parents, then that is both illegal as well as unethical. Okay. So for example, there are many laws in India now that you cannot mistreat your parents. But if you are not taking care of your children to the extent that you should be, suppose you are giving food, clothing, everything, but you are neglecting their studies, for example, education, that is legal. That is not illegal, but that is unethical. Similarly, you tell me, give me some examples which are ethical but illegal. Okay, it is ethical, but it is not legal.
तो जो अभी जो recent case टा इतला से जो जॉर्ज कार सेटा
Correct.
example.
Very good. Very good. So that is also an example of which is ethical but illegal. Suppose you are many ethical dilemmas you will see even तुम्हारा case study रे आसियो, then there you will see कि those are many actions are ethical but illegal. Someone will say कि suppose by breaking any law you are able to save someone's life. Is that an example of ethical but illegal? Yes. Okay. And they can be very minor laws, they can be some major ones. Minor one means suppose traffic violation, you should not do traffic violation. But काहाक बंचाको जाइए तो traffic violation कर दो. Again, that is illegal, but that is ethical, and you should do it. Such kind of thing. Consider this line: white lies. White lies means lies which are told for the benefit of someone else. It's not for your own benefit. Okay. For example, suppose what a child को cancer ହେଇଛି. We had also discussed about this. Now this child comes to you and say कि ମୁଁ କେତେ ଦିନ ଆଉ ବଞ୍ଚିବି. ତମକୁ ଜଣା ଅଛି କି ତାକୁ ଡକ୍ଟର ଟାଇମ ଲାଇନ ଦେଇ ଦେଇଛନ୍ତି କି ସେ ମାସେ ଭିତରେ it is ମାନେ with certain guarantee with 99.99% accuracy or even 100% accuracy. Suppose ତାର ଯୋଉ rare type ର cancer ଅଛି ସେଥିରେ ଆଜି ପର୍ଯ୍ୟନ୍ତ କେହି ବି ବଞ୍ଚି ନାହାନ୍ତି. So we have this established idea कि it is very likely that this child will die. will say कि नहीं तो बाबू ତମେ ତ ମରିଯିବ ଆଉ ମାସଟା ଭିତରେ. ସିଏ କଣ upset ହେଇଯିବ. In that case you should rather say कि no, you are not going to die, you are going to live. I had given you another example. Do you remember this? one of madman with X, well known example, madman with X. Suppose the X गोटे धरिकी जने आसुची सेतरे X रे blood लागिची and he is asking कि where is your family, so you are outside your home, तुमे कोन कहयो मैं घर भीतर अछि मो family, of course you will not say, you will lie, you will say कि family no member केही ना. So in cases where lying is better, where lying will save lives, where lying is beneficial for someone, where lying will not hurt others, or that is said to protect someone, then that is known as white lies. In that case, it is ethical, but it is illegal, right? Consider the case of euthanasia. Euthanasia is sometimes alternatively called as mercy killing. Again, see, this is also very controversial. That is why I wrote this question mark. So we don't know whether that is ethical or unethical. But I personally feel कि if you, we should not give blanket statement, but overall again you will see that what is the situation. If the situation is that that person is suffering a lot and see suffer करिया संगे तार family भी suffer करछंती and तार better होवार there is absolutely no chance, okay, some kind of chronic disease ताको ही fatal disease, and specifically where there is no chance of revival, माने disease ही तो चलो सेतरे तो mercy killing हो, revival लो chance नहीं. For example, that person is in coma or vegetative state, okay. So in that case we can say, sometimes we can say that okay, mercy killing should be allowed, but other people will say that no, this should not be allowed. Why? Because it is very rare, but the person might survive, and there have been some cases, means 5 to 10% case एमती हेची जो माने वर्ष वर्ष धरि 20-30 years भी कोमा रे रहिछन तापर से recover करी छै. So for that hope also we should say कि नहीं, this should not be allowed. Then someone will say religious or spiritual point of view रो advice देबे कि नहीं, sanctity of life, that is most important, कि जेमिति भी थाओ से बंची थाओ, आमे लाइफ को जो भी वे रे ताकू एंड हवा को नेचुरली दबा सॉरी आमे जीवा को दबा जदि नेचुरल से तरह मरियला अलग कथा, बट विल नॉट kill the person, right? So depending on the situation we can say that okay, this is ethical or unethical. Similarly, there would be many ethical dilemmas in which there is no clear distinction between what is ethical, what is illegal, okay. Now if you want to differentiate between the two, you can also differentiate in this way, law versus ethics. You can say ki what is the difference in sources. For example, you will say ki sources of law are what? Constitution, parliament or parliamentary law, right? Then there are executive or government rules and regulations, right? What are the sources of ethics? We have discussed there are many sources. For example, there is God, or religion, there is human ability to reason, okay, reasoning ability. Source of ethics is also society and cultural practices, right? The person himself or herself with free will can also decide whether to be ethical or not. So all of this, education, all of these are sources, right? Family, these are all sources. So this is the difference. Now what is the other difference? You can say what is the difference in being implemented? Who is implementing this? Implemented by whom? So it is usually being implemented by some kind of government. This is being implemented by society or community, and sometimes by the person's conscience itself, right? Similarly, you will say ki what are the consequences of non-compliance. So here there is punishment. Here there is no punishment as such, but there might be guilt, there might be crisis of conscience, right? All of these things. Now again you can say whether it is subjective or objective. It is more, law is more objective and this is more subjective, right? These are the differences. They might ask you a 10-marker question, you will say okay, this is the difference. Now next part of essence, ame bas essence katha hi abe katha hochu. One can say that there is ethics evolves over time. So here you can give example of sati, you can give example of dowry, how it has evolved in India. You can give example of caste system, right? You can recently talk about the recent cases of homosexuality, for example. You can give example of Navtej Singh Johar case, in which the Supreme Court struck down its previous decision and say ki no, homosexuality is not illegal. Okay, section 377 case. So you will say ki earlier it was considered in Indian culture at least as both unethical as well as legally treated as illegal, correct? So law and justice system was treating it as illegal. Now gradually with our moral reasoning or ethical reasoning, we were able to understand that these kind of stuff should not be there in a developed country, developed society. So then Supreme Court also took cognizance and it struck down its earlier decision. So now it is both legal as well as still broadly in society. Again, it is debatable society whether our society has accepted it or not, debatable. But in exam, please don't write that it is unethical. Okay. So in exam, you should always write more progressive values. So tomorrow personal values you should write more progressive values. In general, in any case, I'm saying that nowadays there is this conservatism is on the rise. Have you noticed this or not? The societal level of conservatism has increased a lot in the past few years. So now there is also in our society also there is a movement against it. At least till now the majority opinion would be against homosexuality. But you should not write in the exam ki मैंने exam रे सबବେଳେ majority opinion लिखिया नहीं. Exam रे हमको usually progressive opinion लिखिया रही. Right? Now another essence of, hang on a second. Just give me one. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So it has evolved over time. Now another
Sir.
essence would be, yes.
ସାର୍ ଯେମିତି ନମ୍ବର ଦେଇଥିଲେ ସେମିତି ନମ୍ବର ଦେଇକି ଲେଖିଛନ୍ତି ଯେମିତି ଫାଷ୍ଟ ସୋର୍ସ ଅଫ ଏଥିକ୍ସ ଥିଲା ତାପରେ ନେଚର ଅଫ ଏଥିକ୍ସ ତ ସେମିତି ନମ୍ବର
ମୁଁ
ଦେଲେ
ଲାଷ୍ଟ
clear
ଗୋଟେ
ଜଣା ପଡିବ।
କମ୍ପାଇଲେସନ ପଠେଇଦେବି ହେଲା ମୁଁ
Okay,
ଲାଷ୍ଟ
sir.
ଗୋଟେ ମାନେ ପୁରା ଫ୍ରେମୱାର୍କ କରି ପଠେଇଦେବି ଫ୍ରମ दैट यू विल बी एबल टू चेक କି ମାନେ यार एंड रे पीडीएफ रे ମୁଁ लिस्ट କରି फ्रेमवर्क टा ओवरऑल ଦେଇଦେବି इंडेक्स ଟା then you will be able to understanding କୋଉଟା କଣ ଠିକ ଅଛି so there is a difference between theory and practice, right? It is also one of the essence of ethics ki there is a theory, for example moral philosophers mane achandi, there is also difference in practice. What is the difference in practice? For example, what is being practiced by the people, what is being practiced by the government, right? What is, for example, being ethics being practiced by the police or security forces, what is being practiced by the community and society, right? Moral philosophers, saints, preachers, all of these, they are all theoretical side. Any other kind of thinkers, right? But practice is something which is different. Okay, now there is also a difference in circumstances and intention. Ethics ro circumstance or intention jaha, there is a difference between that also, right? So can you tell me ki some action which might be ethical in some circumstances and which will be unethical in some other circumstances, can you give me some examples in which an action might be ethical or unethical depending on its intention? Can anyone tell me what can be such difference?
Killing someone.
Sorry, feeling someone,
Killing someone. Then I'm a self-defense ki national security ପାଇଁ ଆଉ killing
right?
for terrorism କ୍ଷେତ୍ରରେ
Very good.
ଏମିତିରେ murder.
Very good.
Sir, abortion when mother's health is in danger.
Abortion
When the mother's health is in danger.
when the mother's health is in danger.
Yes.
Okay.
Sir,
Yes,
suicide.
correct.
Sir, Ireland में जो केस है था नॉर्थ इंडियन नॉर्थ
Very
साउथ
good.
जो
हाँ.
केस
Correct.
Suicide.
suicide in which circumstance we should say ki this is this is allowed, this should not, and in which case we will say ki this is not allowed? Can you tell me? को केस रे allow करा हबो कोटर करा हबो?
depend upon person individual.
हाँ ସେଇଟା ହିଁ ମୁଁ ପଚାରୁଛି କି just think and tell me what a case କୋଉଥିରେ when we can say କି this should be allowed, this should not be allowed. Let us say for example କି ଜଣେ ବହୁତ ହି pain ରେ ଅଛି, right? ତାର କିଛି disease ର କିଛି cure ନାହିଁ, so and that person wants to die, so you can say okay, suicide should be allowed. In other cases, even that is very controversial. Some people would say, for example, religiously ମାନେ religious bent of mind ଯାହାର ଥିବ, they will say କି ନାଇଁ, even in that case we should not allow it, right? Because life is precious. So this is the argument they will give ki life is precious. Can you tell me some other examples where depending on the
Sir, whistle blowing.
whistle blower तो सबु केस रे सेटा ये हबो ना?
Sir, breaking the law, like it depends upon the situation. Like when we broke the salt law, it was ethical.
Right, correct. Yes.
Sir, breaking traffic rule when there is not much vehicle to reach hospital fast.
Okay, traffic rule को जेतले break करा हो, right? What else?
सर डेवलपमेंट ପାଇଁ जो एनवायरमेंटल नॉर्म को वायलेट कर दिया जो
Development ପାଇଁ environmental norm को violate करा हो, correct? What else? Intention. अच्छा, give me an example of youth रे intention ऊपर depend करिए will say कि this is
ଜଣେ
this
ଯେତେବେଳେ
is ethical.
ଭୋକିଲା ଗୋଟେ ମାନେ ପୁଅ ପିଲା ଯେତେବେଳେ ଭୋକିଲା ଥିବ ଚୋରି କରିବ।
Correct. What else? सेटा भी से हमें कथा ହେଇଥିଲୁ कि stealing a ମାନେ piece of bread and stealing money from the bank, those are not the two kinds of crime. Stealing from bank is right, stealing from sorry, stealing of bank is not right, but stealing a bread we cannot say that it is unethical. Maybe due to hunger that person is stolen. Otherwise किए bread गोटा कि छोटा खाया गोटा कि कहीं चोरी करे, right? Can you tell me some intention and other, for example, suppose गोटे child कौन कला सी तुमको for some से माने बहुत जोर रे हाथ हले देला तो मुंह रे बाजिला, so you understand child सेमती करछ, but adult आसी यदि से सेम जिंस करियो you will get angry, right? So this is a difference in intention, right? So depending on what is the intention, I had also given an example of men ria. This is criminal intent अछि कि नहीं, depending on that our courts also give award punishment, right? This is also the difference between circumstances and intentions. इतरे किसी doubt अछि till so far? Do you have any doubts? Any doubts? This is a quotation you can use, law versus ethics case re, or Lawrence quotation. In a civilized life, law floats in a sea of ethics. Means usually we consider that laws should be ethical or they should have ethical grounding. Otherwise, that law will not be called as ethical and that law will not be obeyed by the people. And here you can give example of salt satyagraha of Mahatma Gandhi. Right. I know that most of you were thinking about this when the law versus ethics part came on. The point is most people will write about this only, so write some other aspects also. Now let us move on to the next part. What are the contributions or consequences of ethics? Again refer to second class time already we had discussed about individual case re kon contribution, how community case re or societal case re kon contribution. Okay, we had discussed about that. So now we are going to the third point, which is dimensions of ethics. Now what does this mean, dimensions of ethics? And broadly, what are the different types of ethics or different types of ethical considerations, right? Now if you see, आमे जेतले philosophical approaches रे देखिथिले, philosophy of ethics or philosophical foundations, there also we had discussed about these things. कौन डिस्कस आमे करथिले, आमे ई भलिया गोटे बॉक्स करथिले For example, there was Bentham and Mill, there was Immanuel Kant, there was John Rawls, there was Aristotle. Tell me what are the different names? Bentham and Mills mankara,
utilitarian,
Kant kara,
deontologist,
very good.
justice, virtue ethics.
Justice, Aristotle is virtue ethics. So all of these can be said to be the different dimensions of ethics. Okay. Similarly, we have talked about Indian approaches. There we have talked about, for example, Gandhian ethics. We have talked about Amartya Sen's idea of justice, Niti versus Nyay, correct? We had talked about different religious perspective. We had talked about examples from Gita or Hinduism. We had talked about examples from Jainism, from Buddhism. What are the different aspects that we had talked about? Gita रो कोउ aspect आमे discuss करथिलु
निष्काम कर्म
निष्काम कर्म. जैनिज्म में आमे discuss करथिलु अनेकांतवाद and स्यादवाद. बुद्धिज्म में आमे discussion करथिलु माध्यमक मार्ग or middle path. And we had also discussed about one golden principle or golden rule, which is, what is the golden principle of ethics?
You do unto others what you want others to do unto you.
Others to do unto you, correct. So these are all different dimensions of ethics. Now apart from that, there are some other dimensions also. For example, there is something which is known as descriptive ethics. Another example, another category is known as prescriptive ethics. Descriptive ethics कौन, which is only interested in the history or study of ethics. Okay. So it is more related to the theoretical aspect. Prescriptive ethics कौन, prescriptive is more related to practical aspect, how it can be used, okay, and how we can be ethical. This is only the descriptive ethics is description. देखो description of ethics. This is prescription. Prescription माने कौन, suggestion, right? So one is doing description, one is doing suggestion. For example, if you see Kohlberg's theory, I am discuss करथिलु. Do you remember this? Kohlberg's theory of moral development. We had discussed that how human morality develops in stages. If you remember, he had said that human morality develops in 3 stages. One is the pre-conventional level, one is the conventional level, one is the post-conventional level. आम डिस्कस करथिलि pre-conventional level कोन, जोथरे से यूजुअली पनिशमेंट आउ तारो रिवार्ड एंड पनिशमेंट बेसिस रे जोथरे मोरालिटी डिसाइड करा हुए. कन्वेंशनल लेवल होची जेतले पिला उठे बड़ हे जाय सेतले कोन ताको जा रूल्स एंड रेगुलेशन सिखा हुए से बेसिस रे करे. पोस्ट कन्वेंशन जेतले ह्यूमन रीजनिंग टा डेवलप हे गला तो ओडा एडल्ट यूजुअली दे विल हैव पोस्ट कन्वेंशनल morality. That means they can individually independently they can analyze things, and sometimes even if something is illegal, still due to some higher or arbitrary standard of ethics they will decide that this is ethical. So this is the Kohlberg's theory of moral development, right? So this is again, see, Kohlberg is not prescribing anyone कि तुम्हें post conventional ethics माने ethical standard तुम्हारा हो कि conventional हो कि pre conventional हो. He is only describing. से केवल describe करछन्ति कि ethics टा केमते develop हो. But on the other hand, if you see prescriptive ethics, almost everything here that we discussed, these are all prescriptive ethics. What Gandhi is saying, what Rawls is saying, what even Buddha is saying, okay, all of them are prescribing. They are telling people ki how to behave with others. Okay, Gandhi is, for example, Gandhi's talisman. That is prescriptive. He is saying ki on the basis of this you should take decision, right? Rawls is saying ki how we should do justice to the society. We should do justice because justice will ensure fairness in the society, right? So they are all prescribing something that how you should behave with other people. Now similarly, there can also be a difference between theoretical and practical ethics. We have already considered. There are some specific ethical terms. For example, there is also something known as bioethics. Very important. If you see bioethics कौन को आ जाए, bioethics is usually related to matters, ethical matters related to biology. Biology related कौन ethics आस करियो? It might be related to life or procreation. It might be related to death. It might be related to other biological factors. So life or procreation related ethics कौन perspective था? For example, sexual rights or sexual health. Okay. For example, a class ଯେମିତି ଜଣେ କହୁଥିଲେ କି due to some immoral activity, if you are getting pregnant and then you are having abortion, whether that is ethical or unethical. Again, that is a question. That is a question of bioethics. That depends on sexual rights and health, how we frame our argument. There is a ethics related to stem cell research, right? Because stem cell research is so powerful that you can even cure cancer kind of thing. You can even change your gene editing. Okay, life related questions. And under that, we can talk about, for example, designer babies. Have you heard these terms or not? We can talk about 3-parent babies. We can talk about IVF children. Now, for example, what it means, designer babies, कि suppose gene editing द्वारा हम पाखरे एबे एतिकी power अछि कि we can decide कि what kind of characteristics or physical features our baby will have. So suppose scientists ने identify करछन्ती कि एई किछि gene अछि जोटा को हम यदि change करिया गोटे जो baby टा हबो से tall हबो कि short हबो. So suppose the parents want कि हम baby tall हो तो ସେମାନେ कोन करी ताको gene टा को artificially change करिकि then when they are getting pregnant देखाउछि पिलाटे tall होछि. But point is, should this be allowed? Now some people would say that this is procreation is an act of God also. So this is a natural thing. We should not mess with nature. So that is also a controversy, right? 3-parent babies. If the 3-parent baby, suppose mother for some reason she is unable to have baby due to some biological issue by. So they can have 3-parent babies. Someone किसी surrogate mother as surrogacy भी as करियो indirectly. Whether that should be allowed or not, right? Similarly, on the case of death, in the case of death, we were just talking about suicide. Who case it will be allowed? We were talking about euthanasia or mercy killing. Right? We were talking about abortion. All of these are also part of bioethics. In other cases, there are some medical issues. For example, the issue of cloning, right? The issue of even vaccination. कि कहाँ को हम vaccination दबा? In fact, there is a controversy also कि whether vaccination itself should be allowed. Although the consensus right now is yes, it should be allowed, right? It is necessary. There is an ethical issue on medical trials. For example, तुम जानिथिबे आगरो कोन डेवलप्ड कंट्री माने समाने ड्रग्स आउ वैक्सीन बाहर करिया पे कोन करथिले डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज रो लोक को किछि गिनी पिग भला यूज करथिले. गिनी पिग माने जो मान को एक्सपेरिमेंट गिनी पिग जो छोटो छोटो देखछ ना जो छोटो रोडेंट टाइप रो एनिमल जो मुसा वाला देखा जाय समान को यूजुअली बहुत सारा बायोलॉजिकल टेस्टिंग रे यूज करा जाय तांको ऊपर बहुत सारा एक्सपेरिमेंट करी. तो डेवलप्ड कंट्री रो जो ड्रग मेकर्स माने अछंती बड़ बड़ मेडिसिन मेकिंग कंपनीज माने अछंती समान जानछंती कि तांको कंट्री यदि ह्यूमन ट्रायल्स पई लोक को डाकिबे यूजुअली समान जिबेनी कि तो समान कोन करनती इंडिया वाला कंट्री को आसी बांग्लादेश ए वाला कंट्री को आसी हमर जो गरीब लोक मानन को कहंती कि देखो तुम ट्रायल को आसो हम तुमको अल्प किछि पैसा दबो एंड से पैसा भी बहुत कम दियन एंड तांको क्लियरली कहंती भी नहीं कि तार साइड इफेक्ट कोन ही पारे बट द डू एक्सपेरिमेंट सेतरु समान को जहा निष्कर्ष बाहरला समान खुशी पळेले the sufferer are the people who are being used as guinea pigs. So this is also an issue. There is something which is known as medical triage. These are all terms, remember. Triage, medical triage माने कौन? कि suppose you have limited medical resources and assistance. Okay, limited medical resources अच्छी, and you have an option कि you can use it for either of the two people. So there is patient 1, there is patient 2. Let us try to understand medical triage. Suppose patient 1 रो बंचिबार probability होची 70%. Patient 2 रो बंचिबार probability होची 40%. You have only that much resources and time also in which you can save either of these two patients. Can you tell me कि what is the medical practice कहाँ को attention दिया हम?
Sir, if there is a dilemma between a baby and a old man, then a baby should get higher priority.
ନାଇଁ ନାଇଁ ସେ ସବୁ ସେ ଏତେ deep ରେ ଆମେ ଯିବାନି. Suppose same age ରେ ଅଛନ୍ତି ଗୋଟେ. Same age ସବୁ କିଛି circumstances ସବୁ ସମାନ. ଜଣଙ୍କର ବଞ୍ଚିବାର chance 70%, ଜଣଙ୍କର ବଞ୍ଚିବାର chance 40%. Suppose that is our subjective assessment of the doctor. To which person will the doctor give attention to?
70%.
वेरी गुड कहीं लगुच तो 70% को तो दबा कथा नु 40% को तो बेसी नेसेसिटी अछि ना 70% को कहीं दिया होछि
रिसोर्स टा यूज हेले तार माने आउटकम टा ठीक आसीओ 70%।
बंचियार चांसेस अधिका अछि यस हमको किछि लोगों को एटा नेचुरल लागु थाई पारे कि 40% जे जार चांसेस अछि ताको दिया हो बट मेडिकल ट्रायल्स कहउछि कि यू शुड गिव इट टू 70% जार अछि बिकॉज़ मैक्सिमम नंबर हमें ट्राई करिया बंचिया सो अगेन इज दिस नॉट एन एग्जांपल ऑफ यूटिलिटेरियनिज्म राइट yes this is also an example of utilitarianism here you are looking for maximum benefit to maximum people maximum number of people okay you are not looking at quality you are looking at quantity so this is an example now someone will say ki kahin ki so protocol theory hai this also seems unethical to some people so again so you see there are many medical issues in which we are not yet decided ki which is the right thing to do right any doubt so far eponto kichi doubt achi ethical tries or medical tries yaku kahନ୍ତି no okay can you tell me in short what is the meaning of utilitarianism utilitarianism na mane kona
Greatest happiness for greatest number of people.
greatest happiness for greatest number of people how will you ensure that there is a greatest number of people how will we calculate what was the term
Felicific calculator.
calculus felicific calculus means happiness calculator right correct so mane achi bahut sara jinsa thik achi next we come to this part ethics in public versus private relationships what does this mean that ethics in public versus private relationships the meaning says that I mean the summary of this topic is that ethics in public life should be grounded in ethics in private life that means we should be ethical both in public as well as private sphere but if someone is only ethical in public but the person is not ethical in private what should we call that kind of person that kind of person will be called as a hypocrite or actually that kind of person will be called as unethical right so that means if on the public sphere re tame gote bhalo face tomar rakhicho so this is only a facade okay? This is only surface level actually you are not a good person so to give an example to differentiate between ethics in public and private relationship so you must have heard of this story thara kon hala gandhi ko pakku jone स्त्री लोक जने आसिले से कहले कि आज्ञा देखंतु मो पुओ कोन से बहुत स्वीट्स खाउछ इफ यू टेल द किड कि बाबूरे तुमे स्वीट खाओनी ताले सी आउ खाइबो नाही तेणु आपण तांको कहि दियंतु आपण याकू कहि दियंतु कि आउ मिठा न खाओ गांधी सुनले गांधी कहले हो ठीक अछि तुमे गोटे मास पर आस तो द वुमेन वाज मिस्टिफाइड बट शी लेफ्ट मास पर पुनी आसले तापर गांधी जी मास पर जेतले आसले से गांधी टोल्ड द किड कि बाबू तुमे मिठा खाओ नाही then the woman was very confused she said कि आगे मासे आगरो एक सेम कथाटा कहि परथाने मासे आगरो काई कहली गांधी कहले बिकॉज़ मासे तळे मु भी मिठा खाउतली the point was that when you came and requested me I sent you away because first I had to stop eating sweets so first Gandhi stopped eating sweets then he advised the boy to stop eating sweets so is this not an example कि first he ensured that private sphere re he should be ethical then he should be publicly ethical and this should actually be the scenario and to give you another example take the case of Shastri ji Lal Bahadur Shastri during the 1964 Pakistan war ଆମ ଦେଶରେ you must have heard about this ଆମ ଦେଶରେ ବହୁତ food shortage ଥିଲା right so Shastri ji he understood he was the prime minister back then so he thought ki let us do one thing I can ask the people of the country to do fasting for once a week so one day per week रे तमे fasting कले कोन हो किछि food बंची जिवो which will address the food shortage of the country but he did not immediately tell the people first what he did was for 1 week he and his family he told the family to actually practice so he himself he was doing fasting for 1 week when he saw that it okay this is feasible this is doable then he went on the all India radio, and all India radio रे जाके दूरदर्शन रे जाके sorry all India radio आकाशवाणी रे जाके लोगन कहले कि kindly have this fasting for 1 week and this will help in our food shortage or food crisis. So this is another example. First we have to be ethical in our private life, then we can give advice to others. Now what happens if we are not ethical in private life and but we are showing this ethical face in public life? So what will happen is something which is known as, this is known as cognitive dissonance. Sorry, this is known as so this is suppose public life, this is private life. This is known as cognitive dissonance, where public and private life is a facility a figure टा मते भलसे देखले एटा रे बेसी ओवरलैप हो, where your public and private life are merged into one another or greater degree of merger, there we call, there we see cognitive consonance. यार माने कौन dissonance and consonance? देखो तुम जेतले publicly गोटे फेस शो करछो but actually सेटा नो, that means there is a gap between these two things. So there will be cognitive dissonance in the case that तुम निजर माइंड रे भी अनइजी फील करियो. यार बहुत क्रूड वे रे मुई टर्म का बुझुची, अदरवाइज जति साइकोलॉजिकल टर्म में जीवा तार बहुत डेप्थ रे अछि. कार्ल फेस्टिंगर is the person who gave this theory. But basically कौन हुए कि suppose you are saying that I'm an honest person, but in your heart you know that you are not an honest person. So you will feel cognitive dissonance, mean uneasiness inside. तुम ऊपर शो न कले भी भीतर uneasiness feel करियो. So you yourself will be the worst sufferer. But if you are ethical and you are telling in the publicly that I am ethical, then there will be cognitive consonance, means किछि uneasiness रहिबन. Natural जिनसटा सब बाहरियो. Even when you are going to the interview panel, if you are saying something but actually you know that it is not true, there will be dissonance and that will reflect in your behavior also, and they will immediately be able to catch that. Please remember this thing. Okay, suppose तुम कहबे कि मैं public service ପାଇଁ ଯାଉଛି, how एटा केमते कैच कराबो देखो. तुमको पचाराबो तुम काहे कि ओपीएससी ओसीएस करया को आसु, तुम कहे सर पब्लिक सर्विस करया को आसु. जल से वेरी गुड. तापर दे विल आस्क यू कि अच्छा तुम कोन तुम एजुकेशनल बैकग्राउंड कोन एक्सपीरियंस कोन करछो, स्कूल टाइम रे कोन करछो, 50,000 पचारे एमिति केबे आगु जाई कि स्कूल की कॉलेज रे ब्लड डोनेशन करछो, तुम कहयो नाही सर. तापर कहे कि अच्छा जाई कि तुम केबे रास्ता काउ पानी वानी देछो, तुम कहयो नाही सर. Suppose by that time you realize कि okay, now I should be showing some kind of public service, then you will say कि somehow गोटे मिछ कहि दो कि सर एक्चुअली बट मु कोन करछि जेतले कोविड-19 टाइम रे बहुत सारा लोकन जाई कि सिलेंडर देइथिली, फूड देइथिली, घर तोଳି देइथिली, सब कर देइथिली. When you are saying this, there will be a lack of conviction in your voice and they will be able to understand, because that will come from cognitive dissonance. You know in your mind that you are not telling the truth. Okay, this is the difference, cognitive dissonance versus cognitive consonance. When you, whether you are ethical in your private and whether you are ethical in your public life. Now what are the other consequences if you are not, माने the cognitive dissonance तुमरा create हेगला और यदि cognitive consonance नाही, ताले कौन कौन आउ consequence ही परियो. There can also be conflict of interest. That means publicly you are showing that you are ethical, but privately you know that you are unethical. Then conflict of interest conflict of interest केमती आसियो. Conflict of interest, no, sorry, we should rather say it crisis of conscience, right? Crisis of conscience. So when you know that you are lying, then there will be crisis of conscience. You know that you are lying, right? Similarly, suppose you are unethical in your public dealings, then you will also show favoritism towards others. And one type of such kind of favoritism is also known as nepotism. If favoritism is towards your own children or towards your extended relatives, then that is known as nepotism. This is also a special case of favoritism. If public servants do such kind of things, the worst impact for the society will be will be a trust deficit. There will be a trust deficit between people and the government. So when there is a trust deficit, it will also lead to lower levels of government legitimacy. हम यही पॉइंट भी डिस्कस करते. आई डोंट रिमेंबर, सॉरी आई डोंट नो इफ यू रिमेंबर और नॉट. मैं कहता कि नहीं, सपोज जदि गवर्नमेंट पूरा रिगिंग कर दो 100% इलेक्शन को, then they, after rigging, they come to power. What will be the problem? The problem will be that now government decision will not be clearly accepted by the people. Starting रे धीरे धीरे माने starting भी जदि accept करे बाध्य है कि धीरे धीरे revolt हो society रे, because they know that there is no legitimacy of the government. Suppose तुम एबे for some reason if you are able to capture for example the police armory, okay, जाके hijack करी बहुत सारा गन वन नहीं आनी, do you think that you will be able to rule Odisha or rule India for maybe 1 year even, or 1 month, 1 week? Even if you have all the powers and all, people will not accept it, right? So election, what is the point of election? Point of election is that it gives government the legitimacy. But when public servants, when politicians, when officers, they have crisis of conscience, when there is a difference between their public life and private life, now that is reflected in the people also. Very simple, माने बहुत ही crude form में कहूँ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଦେଖିବ गोटे सीरीज ऑफ एमती इंसिडेंट आसीबो मीडिया रे कि सपोज आईएएस अफसर और ओएस अफसर माने एमती करप्शन करछन, बहुत सारा केस आसला, सडनली यू विल सी इन द मीडिया आल्सो रिफ्लेक्टिंग, माने लोकंकर कमेंट थ्रू रे देखियो कि लोकंकर माने गोटे ह्यूजली नेगेटिव इंपैक्ट गोटे आसीबो, लोक माने धीरे धीरे कोन करिवे तापर किछ गोटे भलो काम हेले भी they will try to downplay it either, or they will rather continue to accuse the government, ठीक अछि। तापर किछ जदि भलो कि एक्शन भी जण अफसर नेले, then the comment will say कि अरे हाँ हमें तो बहुत देखिछु या आगुर प्राय 2-3 अफसर माने धरा पड़थिले, से माने एमती करप्शन करथिले, पॉलिटिशियन किछ भलो डिसीजन नेले, अरे तुम तो या 2-3 दिन आगुर हम देखथिलु तुम पार्टी रो लोक माने करप्शन केस रे फसछन, तुमे हम कोन ज्ञान दोछ, राइट? So this is the meaning of trust deficit. Now your decisions and your policies will not be accepted by the people to that extent. And that is why, in fact, Nolan committee, we had discussed this also. Nolan committee had given 7 principles of public life. Public life, not for specifically civil servants, for public life means public servants, including even people's representative. So this was the mnemonic. Can you tell me what are the 7 principles?
So selflessness, honesty,
accountability,
integrity.
leadership, objectivity, openness.
Very good. Shallow, right? So these were the 7 principles Nolan committee suggested that every public servant should have, whether the public servant is a people's representative or an officer, all India officer, state PCS officer. तो तांकर तो चलो सेमता स्टेट पीसीएस नहीं, इन जनरल पब्लिक लाइफ रे को माने कोन केमते बिहेव करिया कथा, एंड वी हैव आल्सो एक्सेप्टेड दिस वैल्यू. एनी डाउट सो फार? एतरे किछ डाउट अछि? हमर फर्स्ट पार्ट एतरे सरी गलो. Essence, determinants, consequences, ethics in human actions, dimensions of ethics, ethics in private and public relationships. Okay. Any doubts so far? बुझे होছে না কিছু ডিফিকাল্ট লাগুছে? Anyone please give me some feedback. बुझे होছে তো?
Yes, sir. बुझी होची।
Okay. ठीक. So next then we will go on to the next part, which is values. Now what do we mean by values? एबे तुम्हारे स्टैंडर्ड टेक्स्ट बुक देखियो, मु देखली कि बहुत सारा स्टैंडर्ड टेक्स्ट बुक रे एटा को this is being treated almost synonymously with ethics itself. Okay. For example, some textbooks like lexicon, they have defined values as again the standards of behavior. Okay. So standards of behavior जेतले आसले एटा होची ethics रो definition. So value is something which is different from ethics. Can you tell me which is broader, values or ethics? Which is broader?
Ethics, sir.
Very good. Ethics is the broader thing. Value is the specific thing. There are many ethical values, but value is not the only thing in ethics. Ethics are principles भी अछि, ethics are theories भी अछि, ethical action, ethical even moral luck बोली गोटे जिंस अछि, ethical dilemmas, बहुत सारा जिंस ethics under आछि. Values is not the only thing, right? So what is the definition of values? Value कहले normally हमें कौन बुझू? Value is a something जहार worth किछि अछि. So the worth we attach to कौन कौन को? It can be an idea, any idea or principle. It can be any person or community. It can be any object. It can be any practice, right? It can be any action. It can be any outcome. all of these एगुड़ा को आमे जहाँ value attach करू we can call that, sorry, जति worth attach करू we can call it as value. For example, if you are valuing a person, if you are valuing the society, the country, if you are valuing any idea or principle, suppose you will say कि मोर तो idea होची कि मो life रो principal idea होची कि how to get rich. So getting rich is the value that you have chosen for yourself. Someone will say कि नहीं, serving the people. Now this is the value I value the most. So that means अन्य मानक आम बेसी अटैच कर वर्थ, राइट. गेटिंग रिच जार वैल्यू सी क्या बेसी वैल्यू कर मनी मनी सब बेसी वर्थ तापे, राइट. सो सम काइंड ऑफ प्रैक्टिस प्रैक्टिस कौन, फॉर एग्जांपल विल से कि द प्रैक्टिस ऑफ एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन, सपोज द प्रैक्टिस ऑफ कल्चरल फेस्टिविटीज, these can also be, you can also attach different values to these points. Okay, any action, for example co type action, suppose you will say ki selflessness, so this is a type of action. Any outcome ro example kon ho, for example you will say ki development, outcome you will say ki poverty alleviation, these are all outcomes. So we can attach value to any of these, and usually we are also attaching multiple values to multiple things. Now remember another thing, values also differ with respect to their valence as well as their intensity. What this means, valence means whether it is positive or negative. Intensity means on a scale you can talk about maybe 0% to 100%, or in some sense lowest to highest. Okay, this means what, suppose we can attach even negative value to something. You can say ki corruption pai more negative value is, you can say ki money laundering pai negative value is, gender injustice pai negative value is, right. Some people also might have negative values towards justice also. Criminals would have negative value towards justice, right. Similarly, the value can also change in intensity. So in general, we will attach some higher value to some things and lower value to some other things. And in fact, if you see, this is the entire point of an ethical dilemma को solve करें point कौन की हमें इतने ही examine करूँ ना कि को outcome और को action में higher value अच्छी कोटा lower value अच्छी. Suppose आम भीतर option अच्छी कि हमें traffic rule को इधर मानी परिया और कहाँ रोडे life save कर परिया. Okay, तो उल्टा कौन लिखते हैं, तो कहाँ को हमें higher value attach करिया है, save life को attach करिया. तो save life को हमें higher pedestal ले रखिलु बोलते हमें से action टा नलु ना. So ethical dilemma को भी solve करिया रो, one of the ways is to understand कि which value has higher intensity, and accordingly you will take the decision कि ताकू हमें सही जिनसड़ा को हमें पहुंचा पे कौन कर पाएगा, right. You can also call value to be a sort of broad preference, broad preference towards certain ideas, practices, objects, etc., etc., okay, over others. So that means you have preference towards some values than others, right. This is the meaning. Now give me some examples ki which are the values which you think are the most dear ones to you. तुम्हें भावुचे कि सही value टा होची तुम्हारो life रो सबुठु central part, or at least तुम्हारो ethical reasoning रो central part. Name me some values. Individual differences देखियो तेरे धीरे धीरे आसियो. Can you tell me, give me some examples?
Loyalty,
Loyalty for you is the central part of your ethical framework.
one of the
Okay.
one of the
Any
central
other
values.
people? Can you give examples?
Sir, justice.
Justice for you is the most important value. Why is this so?
Sir, କାହିଁକି ସମସ୍ତଙ୍କର equal right ଅଛି ମାନେ equally treat ହବାକୁ, justice ପାଇବାକୁ.
Okay. Any other girls? Kindly contribute. Yes.
Integrity, sir.
Integrity. Very good. Okay. Now we are seeing very nice examples of, okay, honesty, integrity, loyalty. Any other values that you think is worth? किसी specific बहुत outwardly value कहाँ अछि? Getting rich? No.
Importance to parents.
Importance of parents, तो तार से
Hey,
value रो
getting
ना.
importance to parents in older age.
Okay. So you have parental devotion. Okay. So the name of that value would be parental devotion. You are devoted to your parents. Okay. Very good. Anyone else wants to say?
Sir, humanity.
Pathi.
Humanity?
What is, sir, humanity can be a value. If,
Acha, by the way, many of you are continuously saying this term humanity. Point ହେଉଛି କି humanity ର ବହୁତ ସାରା different interpretation ଅଛି. So exam ରେ what exactly you mean by humanity you have to write ମାନେ ବୁଝ you have to write qualified phrase. Okay. For example you say କି respect for humanity. ଖାଲି humanity କହିଲେ କଣ ବୁଝାଉଛି? Humanity କହିଲେ ଖାଲି ଏଟା mankind କୁ ବି ବୁଝଉଛି. So entire mankind itself is also humanity. So if you are saying ki, that is not a value, respect of to humanity, now this is a value. So write in qualified phrases. Otherwise ये वाला ଗୋଟେ single point लिख दो exam में कहे कि humanity खाली ता माने कौन?
okay.
Sir, patriotism.
Patriotism, very good. Nationalism, है ना? Nationalism, patriotism. Okay. ठीक है. So that means that you understand कि what is the meaning of value. My point is that do not confuse value with ethics. Ethics is something broader, value is something specific. Ethics is generic, value is specific. Are you able to understand? Okay. Now let us try to understand what are the different types of values that we can have. Now one can have some intrinsic values, one can have some extrinsic values. What does this mean, intrinsic values? Values which are internal to the person. And extrinsic values are which are external to the person or which are inculcated from outside. Now many times extrinsic values can also be internalized into intrinsic values. Okay, internalized by the same person. For example, suppose initially amaro India kichi gender disparity amaro kichi feeling nathila, but if you are being born and brought up in a patriarchal society, now you will internalize the same values which cultural values will be inculcated into you. For example, suppose patriarchal society re badhilo to tumu कहला कि अरे women are not equal to us, so now that negative value will become intrinsic to you, internal to you, right? Similarly, intrinsic value, another kind of classification is also like this: intrinsic values versus instrumental values. Here intrinsic values means which values which are valued for itself, means in itself it is valued. For example, sanctity of life, it is valuable in itself. Okay, honesty, integrity, all of these are intrinsic values. But think of instrumental values माने कौन? Values which are sort of means to an end. So end goal is आउ किछि, but the instrumental value वाला means. For example, punctuality. Now we'll say आमे जो punctual हवा कोचे भलो कथा, but punctual कोठी हवा? Suppose तुमे गोटे जाइछो कोठी गोटे बुलिवारे हॉलिडे रे जाइछो. हॉलिडे रे तो सपोज तुम गर्लफ्रेंड संगे जाइछो, तुम गर्लफ्रेंड सकाळ तुमको उठे देला, अरे पंक्चुअली जाइकी 10टा बेले ठीक 10टा बेले जाइकी पहुंच जिवा बीच रे. you'll say कि आज हम तो पंक्चुअल हवार पॉइंट कोन? अरे आमे ऑफिस जिबा डेली तुम मते उठे देला ठीक अछि, आज पंक्चुअल में 10टा बेले पहुंचार पॉइंट कोन? Are you able to understand? Punctuality in itself is an instrumental value. The end goal is something different. For example, the end goal is productivity, right? The end goal is efficiency. तो यही end goal ପାଇଁ हमको यही virtue टा help करूची. So this is a medium through which we are achieving other values, right?
Sir, author to explain करिए intrinsic value in itself or instrumental.
Intrinsic value होची सेही value which are हमें in general value कहले mostly intrinsic value बाहरी honesty, integrity, sanctity of life, which itself is important. Okay, which is that means these are end in themselves. Instrumental value वाला सही value जहाँ जोटा कि that is not an end in themselves, ताकू हमें use करिकी as a means we are achieving some greater value. So ये जो greater and final values, these are the intrinsic values. Okay, ताकू पहुंचीबा ପାଇଁ କିଛି means भाबरे हमें medium भाबरे use करछे. For example, punctuality. What else can be an instrumental value? For example, let us say cultural norms like conformity. Conformity माने गोटे सोसाइटी रे जहा कुहा होचे हमें ताकू मानि नवा. ना हेई पारे सब जिन जहाँ सोसाइटी रे कहू जे ठीक न हेई नथियो सपोज आम सोसाइटी रे कहू कि men are more important but you are accepting that for some sort of conformity कि तुमको फाइनल जिन आउ गोटे पॉइंट रे पहुंचे रही मे बी टू बिकम सक्सेसफुल नाउ यू अंडरस्टैंड कि मुझे बहुत प्रोटेस्ट करी मु सक्सेसफुल हेबी बट मु यदि यांको कथा मानि जी ताले सक्सेसफुल हेबी बॉडी जी so now that means again I'm not saying that this value is justified or not but our point is कि value can also be negative ना balance भी अछि intensity भी अछि तो जी आइडेंटिफाई कला कि ता पई वैल्यू दा फाइनल वैल्यू दा सक्सेसफुल हबा ताले सी ता पई किछि गोटे मिड लेवल वैल्यू को से बेसी वर्थ दबो so that mid value might be medium might be conformity to sociocultural standards conformity to standard practices now using that this person wants to achieve some other value so this kind of medium or mid level value is known as instrumental value तामाने intrinsic value को पहुंचया पे हम instrumental value को यूज कर राइट
सर कमिटमेंट सर को पटे आसीबो सर
कमिटमेंट वेरी गुड कमिटमेंट वुड बी इंस्ट्रूमेंटल आमे कहया तुम गोटे पागल भलिया कमिटमेंट लोक रखियो तार किसी पॉइंट नहीं ना तुम कह कि मु हूँ शाहरुख खान कमिटेड तो तुमको पचारे डिड शाहरुख खान एवर मीट यू शाहरुख खान केबे तुमको कहले कि तुम बाहा हबो बोली तो कहे नहीं शाहरुख खान तो जाने नहीं मु एग्जिस्ट करे बट मु तो शाहरुख खान को भल पाउछि सो दिस इज व्हाट दिस इज इंस्ट्रूमेंटल वैल्यू तो द पॉइंट इज कि बिना रीजन ने कमिटमेंट रो किसी मतलब नहीं तो तुम यदि कह कमिटमेंट टुवर्ड्स नेशन नाउ हियर कमिटमेंट वुड बी कैन बी एन intrinsic value and in itself okay because here there is a utility nation को तुम भल पाउछ national development हे गेला that itself is an end goal also patriotism in itself is an end goal right but तुम
सर
कहयो कि माने बेगाना शादी में अब्दुल्ला दीवाना तुम कहयो कि मु भल पाउछ वन साइडेड लव करछि जणु तो सही काइंड ऑफ एम्प्टी कमिटमेंट तार किछि वैल्यू नहीं विल ओनली कॉल इट एज इंस्ट्रूमेंटल वैल्यू yes you are saying
this means sir intrinsic values are confined to ourselves only and
ना ना
instrumental
सेमिति
and static
in
sir and instrumental values are dynamic and I mean it can be changed depending on the situation
हाँ in that sense कि if you feel only you can change ना others can't change you felt कि ମୁଁ ଯଦି ଏଇ value ଟାକୁ instrument ଭାବରେ use କରୁଥିଲି ଏଇ value through ରେ ମୁଁ successful ହେଲିନି then you can also decide and you can change suppose ଜଣଙ୍କର final value ଟା ହେଇଥିଲା କି success suppose ଭାବ okay ତମେ ଭାବୁଛ ମୁଁ ଯୋଉ way ରେ ବି successful ହେବି initially ତମେ ଯଦି କହିଲ କି honesty value ଟାକୁ choose କଲ to reach there you failed so for you for this period that might be an intermediate sorry जो कौन एटा instrumental value right then you decided कि नहीं यदि honesty through रे होनी ताले dishonesty through रे so now this will also become an instrumental value for you because for you the final value is success but for some other person the other person's final value itself is honesty right so for him both माने तांको पे instrumental value तो किछि नहीं तांको पे intrinsic value itself is honesty से honest हेले तांको खुशी लागु dishonest हेले he or she is feeling cognitive dissonance to give you another example there are many psychopaths okay psychopath और sociopath माने अछंती जो माने कि cold blood रे kill करि परिबे मारि परिबे सब कुछ कर परिबे तांको टिके भी guilt feeling किछि भी हुए now for them killing for them is a end value in itself that means intrinsic value itself is killing but there are some other people who are killing for example think of soldiers are soldiers taking any pleasure out of killing they are also killing is here also but for them killing is an instrumental value what is the final value final value may be liberty final value may be patriotism right this is the difference so for this person killing is the intermediate value for this person killing is an internal value or intrinsic value right this
sir
is the
suppose
difference
truthfulness sir प्रोफेशनली तो सर आमे सब बेले ट्रुथफुल हे परिबानी सो मोर वैल्यूज ता सर केमती आई मीन
truthfulness depends on you for you it might be if you decide कि मु को माने केस रे हालत रे मु truthful हेबी so now for you is truthfulness is an intrinsic value but suppose तमे ताको instrument भाबरे यूज करछो तमे कहउछ कि जोथरे मते फायदा हबो सेही जगह रे truthful हेबी अन्य जगह रे मु truthful हेबी नै now that is an instrumental value for you so for you the final value is something else for you might be final value is to be popular or to be loved or to gain some kind of advantage to be successful to be wealthy you are giving importance to these kind of things एटा ही वैल्यू रे भी हमें कथा हितला वैल्यू होची कि डिफरेंट वर्थ दैट वी अटैच टू डिफरेंट आइडियाज आउटकम्स एक्शंस एटसेट्रा. So depending on your requirement you can say कि these are intrinsic or these are intermediate. I am saying that there are many values which can be both of these values, but in general if you are being asked कि तुम्हारा example दियो कि कोटा intrinsic value और कोटा instrumental value, you can give जो तो कोटा single point है तुम्हें लिखा हुआ चाहिए, you can write about these things: sanctity of life, honesty, integrity. But for someone else they can use these things for instrument also, right? Okay, now let us move on to next point: objective values and subjective values. Now we can call कहा को हमें objective कहया कहा को subjective कहया. Usually जोटा universally accepted, okay, or across culture जोटा accept करा होची. Here objective माने measurement sense रो no, okay, measurement sense रो objective हमें कहूँ. Here objective means universal way रे or across culture way रे, and subjective means which can change or which change across culture or society or individual or even situations. In that sense, if you see, most of the values are usually subjective. There are very few values which can be called as objective values, and in fact there are one or two values only which can be called absolutely be called objective. But again you will see, depending on situation, someone else might also argue that this should not be objective, and the best case for this is sanctity of life. कि लाइफ को हमें रिस्पेक्ट कर से, लाइफ इन इटसेल्फ दिस इज प्रेशियस वन. बट समवन विल से कि चलो क्रिमिनल लाइफ को भी हमें रिस्पेक्ट देवा कथा. So again depending on situation you can change, but there are also many people who will say that yes, even criminals should not be माने समान को हमें समान को हमें कैपिटल पनिशमेंट देवा कथा नहीं, even they deserve mercy. Okay, so for these people there is one absolute value, that is objective value, that is sanctity of life. So from this can you see that this is a case of moral absolutism and this is a case of moral relativism. हम एटा भी डिस्कस करते लागू, राइट. जे relatively we can say कि this is something flexible depending on case, depending on situation, right, depending on the person, you can say कि this is moral or this is immoral. But there are some people who will say कि नहीं, there are some values which should be universally or across culture that should be accepted, right. बुझिहला अपन तो जा को आउची. एथरो मोर मने पड़ला, बाय द वे यू कैन आल्सो ड्रॉ दिस Maslow's hierarchy भी तुम ड्रॉ कर परियो. Maslow hierarchy is also an hierarchy of values, you can say. For example, here the physiological needs achi. Here there are safety needs. Then there is need for love and belongingness or social needs. Then there is esteem needs. Then there is self-actualization. Is this also not a hierarchy of values? एटी आमे को वैल्यू को इंपोर्टेंस दोचे, सर्वाइवल. You see what kind of value we can find out. Safety रे भी कौन, again survival. Love and belongingness रे कौन होगा, love itself is a value, social cohesion itself is a value. Esteem need रे कौन होगा, individual achievement. Self actualization in itself is a value, right? Is this also not a hierarchy of values? बुझी होची एटा Maslow रो hierarchy, need hierarchy. You can draw this also, values रे you can draw this. Any doubt so far? नहीं, किसी डाउट नहीं. Can you give me an example where some value was earlier considered to be a virtue but now it is considered as a vice? माने आगुरु एटा पॉजिटिव जिंस बोली माना होतला, एबे नेगेटिव बोली माना होची. Some value in the context of Indian society. Sorry, सुना ना.
सती प्रथा.
सती प्रथा रा तो ओके, चलो we can say कि हाँ ठीक अछि. cultural value thila, ethical value to nathila, culturally it was accepted. Any other thing?
So
ଯାହାକୁ
human
ଆମେ
sacrifices, bali pratha.
Yes, again it was also a cultural practice. Ethical practice to taku କହିବାଟା difficult. Cultural practice.
vegan
polygamy
Yes,
ଆଉ monogamy
vegan ମାନେ non veg ଖାଇବାଟା
polygamy, right? Specifically for men. Now it is considered a vice. Okay, now monogamy ରୁ ଆମେ prefer କରୁଛୁ. non-veg ଖାଇବାଟା ଏବେ now it is considered a vice.
ନା
Are you sure?
ସେଟା ଓଲଟା ହେଇଗଲା ସେଟା sorry.
Okay, veg, yes, it can also be said. Vegetarianism was earlier considered to be somewhat pure, right? Pure or good. Now it is also being evolving कि तार किछि माने food habit संगरे किछि हमरो morality रो किछि link नहीं, right? You can be a non-vegetarian and you can still be an ethical person. But again here you will also come across animal rights.
सर veganism भी ଏବେ rise ରେ ଅଛି।
Yes, rise ରେ ଅଛି, rise ଅଛି, what do you want to say? rise ରେ ତ ଅଛି ମୁଁ ଜାଣିଛି।
तो ମାନେ
Yes,
ସେଟା
yes.
ଆଗ ବି ଭର୍ଚୁ ଥିଲା ଏବେ ବି ଭର୍ଚୁ ଅଛି so
Indian society ରେ ସେଟା ओके ଏବେ ଚାଲ
सर
ଟିକେ ଯୋଉ
विराट कोहली
saffronization,
endorse
yes, yes,
କରୁଛି so
ନା saffronization ଯେହେତୁ ଟିକେ ହେଇଯାଇଛି country, so yes you can also say that. But in general ଆମର understanding ମୁଁ ଏଇ case ରେ କହୁଛି ଯେମିତି କି usually this was also linked with caste hierarchy. This is what I am talking about. For example, it was considered कि brahmins ମାନେ vegetarian ଥିଲେ। ଆମେ ଏଇ କଥାଟା ଏଥିରେ ବି discuss କରିଥିଲୁ ନା ଯୋଉ what is that term called sanskritization, कि ब्राह्मण्स माने ସେମାନେ vegetarian ଥିଲେ, ସେମାନେ କହୁଥିଲେ pollution purity principle ଯୋଉ ଥିଲା ସେମାନେ କହୁଥିଲେ କିଛି ଜିନିଷ pure କିଛି ଜିନିଷ polluted, so we are only consuming or we are only following pure things. Impure things, for example non-veg food, we are discarding that, therefore others who are doing that they are impure. But I was also talking how socio-economic status is also impacting your food choice. So suppose brahmins or upper caste, they have the resources, so they can afford to become vegetarians. But जो माने lower caste ଥିଲେ, poor ଥିଲେ ता संगरे, they did not have easy access to protein. तो तांको ପାଇଁ ଗୋଟେ cheap source of protein ଥିଲା animal food, so they had to take it. Otherwise ସେମାନେ ଏମାନଙ୍କ କଥାରେ ପଡ଼ିକି ଯଦି ନ ଖାଆନ୍ତେ ତାହେଲେ ତାଙ୍କର development ବି ସେତିକି ହେଇପାରନ୍ତା, at least physical needs ବି ସେତିକି meet ହେଇନଥାନ୍ତା. So in that sense now ସେଇ rigid caste hierarchy base ର ଯୋଉ ଜିନିଷଟା ଅଛି food ଯୋଉ case of food, now that is not that rigid ଏଇ case ରେ ମୁଁ କହୁଥିଲି. Now you are coming into even modern, even now further into time you are talking about veganism. I don't doubt it, now veganism is also on the rise, right? Okay, in general what I was trying to say is usually you will see this kind of diagram, you can also draw that at the bottom there would be some kind of personal values, okay? In the middle there would be some cultural or social values, and at top there would be many universal or even you can call it even arbitrary values, okay? So ଏଇଟା ଯୋଉ self actualization ଆଡକୁ ଯାଉଛି, cultural societal value ଯୋଉ community level ରେ ଯୋଉ value ଟା, personal value ହଉଛି individual level ରେ value, for example your need for achievement, success or achievement, ଏଇ ସବୁ ଜିନିଷ, right? This is the hierarchy.
सर ଏଥିରେ ଏମିତି କହିପାରିବା କି ମାନେ ଆଗ ଆମର socialistic ମାନେ values ଭର୍ଚୁ ଥିଲା ଏବେ capitalism ମାନେ ସେଇଟାରେ ଦେଖା ହଉନି, capitalism rise ରେ ଅଛି, materialistic
Materialistic culture,
ହେଇଯାଇଛି, materialistic culture हाँ
हाँ
ହେଇଯାଇଛି।
you can say ये सब economic values ରେ ତମେ କହିପାରିବ କେମିତି ଆମ value change ହେଇଛି। ଆଗରୁ କୁହାଯାଉଥିଲା ଯୋଉଟା କି welfare ହିଁ ସବୁ ଥିଲା, ଆଗରୁ capitalism was a bad word, now in fact socialism is the bad word
yes
ଆମ Indian
yes
side, right?
yes
Yes, you can say definitely. Now let us see ki these were all about values or introduction. Now we are going towards role of different agents or institutions in value. ଏବେ ଆମେ ଏଇଟା ଦେଖିବା କି value କିଏ ଆମକୁ ଶିଖାଏ, right? And if you remember previous class ରେ ବି ସେ second class ରେ ମୋର ଯୋଉ ସେଥିରେ ଆମେ ଗୋଟେ discuss କରିଥିଲେ agents of socialization. Agents of socialization is the exact thing that we are going to discuss. Who are the agents of socialization? If you remember I had drawn this diagram जोटा Bronfenbrenner करो ecological model, So first there is individual, then there is family, then there are peers or work life. Oh, sorry, चलो ठीक करियानी ଟିକେ ବଡ଼ ଜାଗା ଦରକାର. You remember that ecological model?
Yes, sir.
So at the center there is the individual, then there is the family. Family बाहर तार school और educational institution जहाँ भी अच्छी, सेठी तार peers अच्छी. Then above that there are तार workplace रे किए अच्छी, colleagues अच्छी. Above the workplace there is community. Above community there is society. या ऊपर भी तुम गोटे कंट्री भी कर पारे गोटे लेवल, बट सही सेम प्लेस भी कंट्री लेवल भी राइट. एंड ऑल ऑफ दिस इज चेंजिंग विथ रेस्पेक्ट टू टाइम, राइट. एंड इफ यू सी between these concentric circles there is also an exchange of ideas, goods and services, everything is there. So it exchange hochi, continuous interaction hochi between all of these. So this we had discussed. This is the ecological model of Bronfenbrenner. Very important kind of understanding that how the individual is actually not alone, actually due to the interaction with concentric circles. Means jete amaro body jivo familiarity, jete amaro body jivo time body jivo, we will be in touch with a larger society, right? Initially oda choto pilata, he or she is confined to the family, then as he or she is growing up, he is going to the school, then workplace, then community, then society, everything is affecting, right? So if you see from that sense, who are the agents of socialization? Agents of socialization माने किए ताको socialize करूछन. So this will start very माने बहुत small level रो, micro level रो, family रो start करके धीरे धीरे तारो friends, school teachers, it will go towards their colleagues, work colleagues, then the broader community members जो माने थिबे, then तारो society रे जो लोग थिबे, political leaders, everything. All of these eman ko through re, all of these he or she is understanding how to socialize, right? So all of them are inculcating values. Now all of them are not inculcating same values or even good or bad values. Some might be inculcating good values, some might be inculcating bad values, some might be inculcating, sorry, good or bad values in a higher level. Again this is about valence छोटा intensity रे भी difference ही करे, किसी better intensity रे value impact करछन, किसी lower intensity रे करछन. So all of them will come into play in the life of one person when it comes to value education. Now if we start from the beginning, for example, let us talk about family. So in the family you can say who are going to have the major impact: mother first, father, then you can even talk about siblings, then other extended members, right? All of them are going to inculcate some value in or other. For example, mother, what kind of value will she impact? Mother usually will provide the first kind of value is love, affection, okay? And this will create the sense of trust in a child. Jodi gote child मन रखो जदि mother's love पाएगी, that child would grow up to become suspicious, okay? तारा lack of trust हवो, okay? तारा trust issues बहुत create हवो. So mother is the person who will generate these feelings in the child. What values will be, we are all talking about who value के कौन impact करछी, okay? Any other thing the mother can teach? Okay, mother can also teach ethical values, also other ethical values.
So
Mother can also
tolerance,
direct. Very good. Tolerance, suppose one value.
sacrifice,
Honesty she can also teach. Very good. Sacrifice she can teach the child,
compassion.
right? Compassion, very good. All of these mother can teach. What do you think father, which values do you think father will teach?
Discipline.
Very good. Discipline. By the way, again you see when we are talking about this, there is a risk of gender stereotype, okay? We should be very aware of
Yes.
that. Now someone will say, why should only father teach discipline? We are not saying only father would teach, but we are talking about in general what is seen in Indian society. So don't get confused between this, okay? Otherwise this itself can be controversial. you are saying ki mother is teaching love and affection, father is teaching discipline, so that means fathers are affectionless. Is this the argument you are making? You are saying no, in general Indian society kon dekha hoche. What else apart from discipline?
Responsibility.
Yes, responsibility, very good. What else?
Sir, emotional control. Emotion control.
Okay, that will be called as temperance. Suchi kouche ki?
Yes, sir, Alicia.
Sorry,
Alicia, sir.
Alisa. Okay, very good. Temperance we can say. What else? Which other value can we say that father will impact?
Sir, altruism.
Altruism ko father. Altruism rather, I think it should come here also. Okay, altruism can come in both. ठीक ଅଛି, altruism can come in both. ସେମିତି କିଛି ନାହିଁ father mother. Okay, ଆଉ କିଛି ଅଛି? Siblings.
The leadership.
Excellent. Bada point, leadership. Very good point. Father will teach. What else? Any negative thing mother or father might teach? देखो mother यदि excessive affection दे देवे, that will teach what? That will teach a negative kind of value to the child. What kind of value? Over dependence, right? Spoiled भी से ହେଇଯିବ, तारो temperance रे भी issue ଆସିବ. Temperance in the sense कि say for example he or she will not be able to anger management रे issue ଆସିପାରେ, right? Spoiled brat type ରହିଯିବ. Okay. Father ର negative, suppose negative values कौन? Excessive କିଛି ଜିନିଷ ହେଇଗଲେ negative इसकी child को मतलब sorry child ଭିତରେ कौन fear develop करिपारे. Child ଭିତରେ कौन develop करिपारे? For example excessive discipline, excessive responsibility, escapism can also create, right? It can also lead to how कौन ହେଇପାରେ? Suppose father, yes,
Defense mechanisms.
okay, different types of defense mechanisms. Now तुमने तो କହିଦେଲା, but issue ହେଲା responsibility ମୋ ଉପରେ ଏବେ ହବ, ତାକୁ explain କରିବାର. Okay, so we'll not go into that. So have
Sir,
you read
animal movie ରେ ଯୋଉ issue था.
right? Animal movie तो ମୁଁ ଦେଖିନି, but I can guess from the trailer कि father's love ताको मिलने, for some reason he was looking for validation, right? So validation मिलो father to, paternal validation. Yes, I have achieved something and you have my blessing. That is what I can guess from the trailers. Maybe that was the reason why he was behaving so badly towards girls. I don't know. Negative values सेटा गोटे ହେଇପାରେ, right? Okay, both ହେଇଗଲା father. Siblings कौन value impact करि पारंती?
So,
Share and care.
Yes, sorry,
Share and care.
सुना गला कौन कहला?
sir, sharing.
ये जाने को.
Sir, sharing and caring.
Okay, very good. Sharing and caring. Okay. What else? Competitive spirit. Competition itself is a value. Very good. Adjustment. Okay. Sacrifice. Right. Anything else? किसी negative जिनसे से खेदी पारी? Selfishness तार opposite भी ही पारियो. Okay. भूल जिनसे तो मैं दी नो. Jealousy ही पारियो. Yes. Personal experience ରୁ କହୁଛ କି? Stealing will not be a virtue or vice ନା, ହେଇପାରେ କି? Negative ଜିନିଷ କଣ ଗୋଟେ ଆସେ, ତମ ଭାଇ କଣ ତମଠୁ ନେଇଯାଉଛି କି କିଛି ଜିନିଷ? So I don't know whether stealing will be, stealing ଟା କଣ vice ରେ କଣ ତାକୁ କୁହାହବ? Selfishness under ହିଁ ଆସିବ ନା. It's the ones. ଆଉ କଣ ଆସିବ? कंपटीशन जदि नेगेटिव रे ही जाए ताले कौन हबो? सपोज कि बायस आसपरे, पेरेंटल बायस आसपरे, राइट? अफेक्शन ने आसपरे,
डिप्रेशन आसीबो.
कौन आसियो?
डिप्रेशन आसीबो.
ये तो बहुत ही एक्सेसिव हेला है. सिबलिंग ପାଇଁ କିଏ डिप्रेशन में जाजो?
Sir, lack of trust.
यस, माने सस्पिशन आसपरे.
से डिप्रेशन होबनी, फ्रस्ट्रेशन आसीबो. सॉरी.
हां, गुड गुड. फ्रस्ट्रेशन आसपरे, यस, फ्रस्ट्रेशन आसपरे. झगड़ा फगड़ा में, ठीक है. So all of this can negative जिनसा का आसपरे. Other members को थू similar point ही आसियो. Suppose if you are thinking about any specific members, for example, if you are talking about grandparents को बहुत भलो भलो value आसपरे. For example, affection आसपरे, right?
Sir,
Grandparents को
religious
थू
Moral.
teaching आसपरे. Very good. Moral और ethical values in general सब moral values भी समान देवे, right? they will show about patience, what a virtue set देखा मिले जतरे तुम्हारा old age हबो, you are very patient, you understand the things, wisdom, all of these will come. So specific if other members को था भावियो, then you can think of some other points, but my point is this is enough. Okay, कि which values are generated by which family member. Now at one small topic ये देखो किसी भी सब जिनसे usually in the standard textbook है नहीं. So there are different parenting styles which also depends different kind of values. So there is one researcher called Bomrind. He had given different parenting styles. से कहले कि different parenting style रे different type of values create. For example, there is something called as authoritarian parenting style. There is something called as authoritative parenting style. There is something which is called as permissive parenting style, and there is something which is called as neglectful parenting style. Authoritarian माने कौन, जो हिटलर टाइप रो जो माने पेरेंट थे, तो सेमाने ले इटा सब हमें डिस्कस होची वैल्यूज इन द चाइल्ड और चिल्ड्रन, कौन वैल्यू डेवलप हो. बर्तन को यदि पेरेंट माने अथॉरिटेरियन है ताले कौन वैल्यू यूजुअली डेवलप करे चाइल्ड भीतर.
The rigidity, inflexible.
पेरेंटल डिपेंडेंसी, ओबीडियंस, फियर, है ना, ये सब जिंस डेवलप हो, और लैक ऑफ इनिशिएटिव, ये सब जिंस डेवलप हो. Authoritative माने this is actually called the best kind of parenting. Okay, authoritative माने authority plus rationality. एथिरे कोन authority without rationality and without any freedom to the child, but here it is authority along with some degree of freedom as well as rational thinking for the child. So एथिरे this is considered the best kind of parenting style. एथिरे कोन हबो self sufficient and self esteem. Sorry, कौन कहला?
Sir, self-esteem ही कहते.
Okay. Yes, so these will be developed. So this is the best kind of thing that the personality development will help. Right. Similarly, permissive. माने देखियो किसी parents होते जो माने कि सबू allow कर दे, all allowed for the child. So these are actually जो माने spoiled brat create करते. तो ये भला parent मान को पाइन child रे कौन develop हो? Lack of self control, right? Lack of discipline, egocentricity. सब जिनस निज पर्सपेक्टिव देखियो से अन्य पर्सपेक्टिव किसी जिनस देखि पारिबन, राइट. Impulsiveness, ये सब जिनस क्रिएट है. Now there is another kind of parenting which is called as neglectful parenting. एथिरे होची parent माने uninvolved in child rearing. माने पूरा खोला माने ସେମାନେ କିଛି ଦେଖିବେ ହିଁ child, तो child कौन हो delinquency, এটা सबुठु dangerous. Okay, माने criminal tendency सब बाहरी. एते जते vices, all vices you can write different vices, because if the parents are not looking after the children में पूरा खराब है, right? So this is also something you can draw, and this concept was given by a researcher called Bomrind. You can mention ना कले भी चलियो, if you want you can mention, right?
Sir, authoritative रे actually कौन करते हैं?
Authoritative माने कौन कि तुम्हें authority show करियो but rational way रे. ता माने कौन देखो, suppose तुम्हें कौन हला पिला को तुम्हें गाली देलो, suppose पिला कौन हला पिला माने टीवी देखते बोली तुम्हें गाली देलो. अच्छा छोटो पिला से तो बुझी पारियो ना टीवी देखियाटा खराब कोन भाई, तुम्हें केवल खाली गाली देबनी, तुम बुझाओ कि टीवी काहे कि देखिया कथा न. You will say कि देखो तुम टीवी देखले तुम्हारे देह खराब हो, तुम्हें पाठ पढ़ने, or in some other you will try to explain to them. If you are otherwise, if you are just punishing them without making them understand कि साने कौन भूल कले, सेटा है जो authoritarian. Authoritative वाला पुनी देखो कितने सारे different dimension आसवे. Suppose you are telling the child कि you try to understand कि कोई जिनसोड़ा ethically correct कोडा न हो. Suppose the child जिनती तुम्हें traffic light violate कर दलो, से child तुम कहो कि पापा तुम्हें कहीं की traffic light violate कलो, तुम कहो कि I देखो because it would life save करियर है और किसी would important जिनसा थिला which is greater than traffic light, right? Rules and regulation. And here you are rational, you are explaining to the child the intricacies of ethical behavior, right? And that is why it is the best kind of parenting, because the child will become self-sufficient or self-esteem will develop over say rational thinking. Yes, here rational thinking should also be an outcome, rational or logical thinking, right? Otherwise blindly, suppose even if he or she deserves it, suppose से किसी भूल करदा तो ताको जोरे बाडेला ताले हेटा अथॉरिटेरियन हे जो चाइल्ड तो बुझिबन ना कि तार एक्चुअली कोन भूल हिची, so you have to make them understand कि कोन एक्चुअली भूल हिची, right? So this is all about family. Similarly, if we talk about school you can talk about either in terms of teachers and other is the peers. Here also you can think of many values. Teachers माने कौन value inculcation करिए, think they will also देखो usually एमाने कौन करिए, these are all intellectual, गोटे होची intellectual kind of values आ गोटे हबो ethical values develop करिए। intellectual value माने जोटा को पाठ विषय related किछि जेमति patriotism or nationalism, जेमति होची स्वच्छता, like this also you can write, no issues। सेमिति आउ कोन intellectual value कोन, poverty, about poverty alleviation, about literacy, all of these things
rational thinking,
intellectual,
critical thinking.
हाँ rational thinking, yes, critical analysis, yes, critical thinking। Similarly they can also impact, yes yes कौन,
Sir,
punctuality, yes it can happen। ethical रे कौन हबो, in general जो normal value गुडा जो honesty, integrity है ना, all of these things can be taught to the child। now this is more important कि okay चलो teacher भी important, peers, can you tell me which values will be taught by the peers?
So teamwork, collaboration,
Very good,
competition, healthy
teamwork,
competition,
collaboration, competition, okay, compassion, justice or fairness, in the case of fair treatment for all people, right? Most importantly fraternity or common brotherhood, right? And if you consider friendship is also in itself, it is a virtue also, it is integral or healthy, it is important for our healthy development, right? Tolerance, they can teach you tolerance,
Situational
all of these
handling,
are very good। situational issues को केमते हमें हैंडल करें ना, टेम्परेंस भितर चल जियो सेटा, क्रिटिकल थिंकिंग दे कैन आल्सो हेल्प यू इन क्रिटिकल थिंकिंग, टेम्परेंस से भी हेल्प करी, राइट?
leadership भी peers को सीख करो।
यस यस एक्सीलेंट, आई वाज थिंकिंग कि कोन ओड छाडी गेली, लीडरशिप मोस्ट इंपोर्टेंट, देखो टीम वर्क संगे लीडरशिप भी आसे, so some people will be team members, some people will become leaders, so this will provide you a platform whether you will be a team member or whether you will be a leader, okay? टेम्परेंस भी सीखे पाई, ठीक है। So all of these are different values which will be taught by the school। Now at your workplace or colleagues, I think we should take a break. Take a break. We will meet after 5 minutes. Video will be on. You just take a break. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any doubts so far? କିଛି doubt ଅଛି? Okay, so let us move on to the next point. Workplace or colleagues, ତାଙ୍କର କ'ଣ importance ଅଛି ନା they will provide you values like again all of the ମାନେ ଯୋଉ peers under ରେ ଯାହା ଯାହା ଦେଖିବା ସେଇ ସବୁ ଜିନିଷ ପ୍ରାୟ ରହିବ. For example team work ରହିବ, leadership ରହିବ, tolerance, right? ଏ ସବୁ ଜିନିଷ ରହିବ ଯାହା ଯାହା peers under ଥିଲା. କିଛି extra ଜିନିଷ ବି ରହିବ. For example here you will also colleague workplace ରେ ତମେ କ'ଣ ଶିଖିବ, you will also understand efficiency, productivity. Okay. Here again you will see leadership in a different way. Here leadership will be, by the way, do you know the definition of leadership? Leadership is someone who takes a team to a goal. The simple definition of leadership. In school there was se goal ta hate defined nathila and sete maybe tar stakes sete high nathila, but here the stakes are higher. So here the importance of leadership will come. And a level of workplace re bhi under leadership there is also a term called transformational leadership. ये सब point तुमको लिखियार अछि. It will also, this is also a value which will be taught to you in which you can learn from workplace. तो transformational leadership कौन ना एमितिया गोटे leadership जोटा कि गोटे इधर गोटे crisis और गोटे बहुत खराब condition में गोटे organization थिबो और किसी गोटे organization में गोटे किसी important very important objective थिबो. Okay, organization or nation or any sector, okay, any team, if you are taking them towards this goal, in the way you are able to change the organization or change the country, then it is known as transformational leadership, right? For example, we can say that the leadership shown by Lal Bahadur Shastri during the India China war, leadership shown by Vajpayee, that is also an example of transformational leadership. The leadership shown by Vikram Bhai Sarabhai, Vikram Sarabhai sir, that is also an example of transformational leadership because he was the person who established ISRO, right? The leadership shown by Dr. Kalam, he worked both at ISRO as well as DRDO also. DRDO is a conversion. So these kind of leaders we call them as transformational leaders. So these you will learn at or you will get the opportunity to manifest or to show at your workplace only. Family re transformational leadership कौन ही करे. So these are the different values that you can learn from workplace or colleagues.
सर
You
जो
can even
ट्रांसफॉर्मेशनल लीडरशिप माने वाजपेयी को केस रे याही परियो कि आगो न्यूक्लियर टेस्ट करनतला बट ही शोड करेज
yes
एंड
yes Pokhran जो test करा आला,
यस
that was an example of great example of leadership. You must have seen that interview ना जो तांको कहा आला तांको threaten करा आला. US was threatening India कि तुम केमती nuclear test करियो, तुम nuclear test कले US will also attack India. In fact India जेतले Pokhran test कला हेतले US रो तारा गोटे naval ship टा होची Bay of Bengal ले आसी समने माने सेटे patrolling करूथिले, which was violating our sovereignty also. But Vajpayee कहले कि we knew what was coming. Vajpayee was aware of that even before taking the decision. That was a very tough decision, but he took the decision because he knew that this will change the country for the better. That is an excellent example of transformational leadership, right? You can talk about even Steve Jobs. He turned Apple from ମାନେ ଗୋଟେ garage ରୁ ତାଙ୍କ ଘର garage ରୁ start କରିକି that turned into a multi-billion company. Okay. In fact, the richest company in the world, or at least one of the richest आगुଥିଲା, I don't know right now किए ଅଛି, but at one point it was the richest company, Apple. तार net worth of Apple is actually bigger than many countries GDPs. You know this or not? गोटे company रो worth एते huge. This is also an example of transformational leadership. So these are the values which will be taught by the workplace. Now think about in general what will be taught by कितने number point में जाए 3 number 4 number suppose society or culture or community, whatever you say. Okay. In general society is bigger than community, but society and culture कौन कौन value तुमको impact कर परियो. social
ସାର୍ ଆମେ
cohesion
ନେଗେଟିଭ ଭ୍ୟାଲୁଜ ଦେଖୁନାହାନ୍ତି କିଛି।
यूजुअली पॉजिटिव केस रे लिखु तुम चाहिबो यदि लिखि परिबो वर्क प्लेस रे नेगेटिव वैल्यू तुमको कोन मिलुची तो नेगेटिव जिंस लिखियो ही कोन तुम कहे कि पंक्चुअलिटी रो अपोजिट रो जहा सेटा एमते किछ लिखियो कि तुम कहे कि लेस प्रोडक्टिव हो हम सिखौची
Sir,
नेगेटिव
buttering.
हो कोन दे similar that is an informal term you can't write buttering psychophancy
Corruption.
yes I don't know if this spelling is correct maybe this just check yes
Sir,
sucking up to
flexibility.
someone right now okay
Sir,
what else
corruption.
was हाँ हाँ कौन पचार
नहीं ମୁଁ କହିଲି corruption ବି ଲେଖିପାରିବ।
हाँ लिखिपार कथा होची सी कथा होची these places are not actively going out and teaching you or anything because you could not succeed at something then you found out alternative instrumental values through this they are teaching you right otherwise को workplace तुम को होची तुम corruption करो बट so you are going there maybe work culture रू देखि तुम किसी सिखला और तुमको पैसा दरकार थिला और तुमर लोभ होला some because of your own decision you are taking otherwise they are not teaching you such kind of things तो हमें पॉजिटिव सेंस रे ही लिखिया यूजुअली मोस्टली इवन देखो ये तुमे फैमिली जिनस रे किछि नेगेटिव लिख पारो बट हाँ लेख किछि असुविधा नहीं लेख
हाँ सर,
नेगेटिव
जेंडर
लिख पारो
स्टेरियोटाइप भी ହେଇପାରିବ ନା फैमिली वैल्यूज रे।
हाँ फैमिली वैल्यूज रे पारियो मोस्टली वर्क कल्चर रे भी पारियो टॉक्सिक वर्क कल्चर रे नेगेटिव जिनस भी लिखियो टॉक्सिक वर्क कल्चर रे यू कैन राइट अबाउट जेंडर बायस आल्सो राइट बहुत जगह रे जेंडर बायस काम करे यू कैन राइट but first positive लिखियो and maximum माने mostly focus on the positive part ठीक है नेगेटिव पार्ट हम कम लिखियो तो सोसाइटी और कल्चर तुमको हमको कौन सिखेयो सोशल कोहेजन गोटे वेलफेयरिज्म गोटे राइट इट विल आल्सो टीच अस अबाउट
द म्यूचुअल
हाउ कौन
ट्रस्ट एंड कोऑपरेशन।
वेरी गुड म्यूचुअल ट्रस्ट हबो कोऑपरेशन हबो करेक्ट
So nationalism.
वेरी गुड नेशनलिज्म व्हाट एल्स
Sir, empathy.
रेस्पेक्ट वेरी गुड रेस्पेक्ट टू एल्डर्स और अदर्स एम्पैथी सिंपैथी कंपैशन ये सब गोटा लाइन में लिख परियो राइट
रेस्पेक्ट टू वुमेन।
राइट जेंडर जस्टिस इन जनरल the negative part if you want you can write a few points society or culture को हमको negative values कौन मिले for example selfishness you can maybe if you fail in life you'll taking selfishness through I will succeed success itself success oriented excessively success oriented हवा at any cost right that is also a negative thing देखो एटा positive भी ही परियो negative भी ही परियो at any cost if you are trying to succeed by hook or crook that is also a negative value right तो wealth in or money minded rather हवा okay that is also a negative value money minded हवा or in general you can call it materialism competitive excessive competitiveness सब जिनसे किसी पॉइंट यू कैन राइट इन करप्शन आल्सो यू कैन राइट ठीक अछि लिख परियो बट एते बेसी हमें ए जिनसे लिखे ने विल फोकस ऑन दिस पार्ट आई वांट टू फोकस ऑन अनदर थिंग इमर्जिंग एजेंट्स ऑफ सोशलाइजेशन भितरे मास मीडिया और सोशल मीडिया आसियो मास मीडिया एंड सोशल मीडिया now again if you want we can focus on many virtues and vices also but here I want to focus on some concepts now देखो मास मीडिया और सोशल मीडिया केमिति से माने सोशलाइजेशन एजेंट केमिति how they are affecting human values now can we say कि mass media and social media they are setting the agenda of the social discourse कि को टॉपिक विषय रे हम कथा हबा yes they are setting the agenda किछि जिंस ऊपर समाने मोर फोकस करछंती किछि जिंस ऊपर लेस फोकस करछंती राइट accordingly हमर फोकस भी से आडू से अटेंशन जाउछ फॉर एग्जांपल यू कैन से कि मटेरियलिस्टिक काइंड ऑफ परस्यूट को समान दे आर मोर फोकस दिया होची लेस फोकस कोटा दिया होची एक्चुअल सोशल इश्यूज को लेस दिया होची you can say that mass media and social media is also affecting and they are helping towards westernization correct india रे westernization आडू जाउछ धीरे धीरे you can even talk about mcdonaldization we had discussed in ethics class, sorry, society class. Can you tell me what is the meaning of McDonaldization?
So standardization and efficiency.
Standardization, efficiency, and relatively lower quality at the cost of efficiency, right?
Okay.
So uniform service, सब जिनसे uniform हो, right? So there is a uniformity, standardization, efficiency, all of these. So is this not cultural values रे भी जिनसे आसुनी? If you see many of our cultural values, आगुरु किसी uniquely जोड़ा Indian थिला, they are gradually turning into Western values, right? So for example, best example you can say is respect to elders. Now there is lack of respect to elders, rather there is what kind of friendship orientation kind of judge, equality kind of use. Now someone will say this, even this is a good thing, someone will say no, this is a good thing, right? Similarly, any other values that they are teaching us, many negative values, negative जिनको मैं लिख पा रही हूँ, selfishness मैं लिख पा रही हूँ, okay,
Sir,
you
cancel
can write,
culture.
okay, you can write cancel culture, okay, in general identity politics, right? But I doubt whether the examiner himself will know what is cancel culture. Okay, 40-45 year old ସେମାନେ କଣ cancel culture କହିଲେ କଣ ସେମାନେ ବୁଝିବେ God knows. In general globalization ପାଇଁ ବହୁତ ସାରା issue ଆସୁଛି, ତ you can write କି globalization ପାଇଁ ବି ବହୁତ ସାରା issue ଆସୁଛି. Okay.
Sir, fake news भी କହିପାରିବ.
Yes, propaganda, right? Propaganda and fake news, paid news, बहुत सारा जिनिଷ लिखिପାରିବ, right? All of these you can write. Gullibility in people ଏଟା ବି increase ହଉଛି, ତ ଏଥିପାଇଁ scam ବହୁତ ହଉଛି. Okay, n number of things you can write, but
Sir,
in general you
polarization
know,
भी କହିପାରିବ.
very good polarization, and that is also leading to riots, communal conflicts, right? अच्छा କିଛି ଭଲ ଜିନିଷ ହଉଛି କି ନାହିଁ ସାର୍? ନେଗେଟିଭ ଜିନିଷ କହିଲେ ଭଲ ଜିନିଷ କିଛି ଗୋଟେ କୁହ. ଆଚ୍ଛା ସେମାନେ they have created a level playing field for people also, so they are also to some extent they have also created egalitarian society.
Sir, free speech.
Justice, yes, free speech को भी ସେମାନେ, you can say greater level of free speech, right?
So different
Education,
prospects are coming up.
prospect ମାନେ କଣ?
Different perspectives. For example, ଆଗ ଯେମିତି Twitter ଗୋଟେ
Okay, okay.
ମାନେ left wing କୁ ମାନେ push କରୁଥିଲା, ଏବେ after Elon Musk ମୋତେ right wing କୁ ବି ସେତିକି platform ମିଳୁଛି.
ଆମେ ଏଇଟା କହିବା voice to all, right?
Yes.
So in this way it is more inclusive, inclusivity. Yes, you can say. So finally we will go towards value education. ये जिनसे भी नहीं तुम्हारा कोई भी सेंटी usual standard textbook रे नहीं, some extra things we are studying. Okay, हम actually बहुत depth को जाऊँ. I told you one thing, content density हिसाब रे तुम्हारे देखियो usually textbook रे भी ऐसे content density नथियो relative to what we are learning here. Okay, so our notes are very very content dense. In fact हम note रे किछ भी irrelevant जिनसे किछ भी नहीं, not a single line has been wasted, right? So we should make maximum use of our notes, right? So now we come to this part कि हमें बुझिगले value जिनसो. Yes,
सर एग्लिटरियन माने कौन?
equality, egalitarian ने equal सब जिनसे माने जो society टा होची more equal, egalitarian. Okay. So let us come to this part की value education. Now हमें बुझिगले कि value कहले कौन अछि, value रा different किए के value inculcate करछंती, agents of socialization को type रा value बाहर को agents मान को. Finally you will see this is something that you can use in way forward. That is why I included this कि way forward रे किछि जिंस तुम लिखि परियो, otherwise समस्त से generic points से लिखि परियो. So way forward means किछि गोटा solution तुम दोउछो, so there you can give suggestion कि how can we inculcate values in people, inculcate preferable or ethical, moral or ethical values in people. Okay. This is the meaning of value inculcation. So these are moral values. For example, you can write about like honesty, integrity, some generic points you can write. So आमे केमिति value education कहा थ्रू रे लोकान को value create केमिति करियो. Now, if you understand, value education will impact the person at all three levels of personality, and these three levels are known as ABC. It is psychology ro ABC को आवे affective, behavioral and cognitive. Affective माने feeling, right? Behavioral तो action जानचो, cognitive माने thinking. So thinking, feeling and action, all three level of personality को affect करियो जोटा, that is value education. The point is thinking और feeling ये दिटा mix चले तो last action बारी है. Action means behavior. So value education is something which will affect initially your thinking and feeling, and finally it will get reflected in your action. Right? Finally, it our outcome. So यार purpose कौन हो? What is the purpose? Purpose हो कि again whatever were the purposes or contributions of ethics, you can write the same points. क्या हमें लिखा value education कौन कौन करी परियो? हमको decision making रे help करी परियो, individual decision making, हमारा personality development रे help करी परियो. It will help us to think rationally and purposefully. Right? It can help us to lead a meaningful life. It can help us to finally also even reach eudaimonia, right? Which is the true happiness. Who gave this concept?
Aristotle.
Very good. Eudaimonia, right? So all of this is the purpose of value education. Now the question comes ki how to actually inculcate values. How to inculcate value. Now if you see, there are some models of value inculcation given. For example, the same person, Lawrence Kohlberg, he gave this model कि केमिति हमें value inculcation करिया. He said कि first you have to do value identification. Means हमें को value टा हमें actually impact करिया. Okay. So first we should find out को value टा impact करिया. तापरे something which is known as moral education. Now entire game is this moral education itself. We will discuss about this. But after moral education, there is internalization of values by the person himself or herself, and finally this leads to moral development. Okay. So Kohlberg कहले कि first हमें identify करिया को value को हमें inculcate करिया माने को value रो training दवा तापर सेही value को हमें training दवा बतन हमें आसिया सी point को कि training माने ही सेटा ही main जिनिस ना training कौन दवा and internalization हो internalization point माने कौन माने सेही जिनिस रो से लोकटा निजे accept करियो internally honestly he or she will believe it and he will accept it, and this will lead to moral development. जो से तांकर से triangle देखना ना pyramid से से ऊपर को move करियो upward moving हो. So now the point is how you are going to do this moral education. Now as per different theories we can use different techniques or methods. Technique तो कया ठीक हो ना method कया ठीक हो. For example there are some learning theories. Learning theories कौन कहूची आम लोगों को सिखे दवा कि केमिति moral हवा. Now which are these learning theories? There are some conditioning theories. Conditioning theories माने ସେମାନେ कहे कि आमे rewards and punishment थ्रू रे आमे लोगों को सिखे दवा. For example, if you are being corrupt, then if you are being jailed, you understood that okay corruption होची ठीक माने भलो इंसान हो, then you got reformed. Similarly, if you are honest, then you will get rewarded, right? For example you can write for example promotion suppose. Now you understood that this is the right value. But remember learning theory ta it a reward and punishment, this is usually happen at the level of laws, rules, okay, rules regulations esu जिनसे हबो. But at the social level this learning will come from what is known as social learning. And social learning raw most important part is something which is known as the use of models. Model means other persons जाको देखिए हमें सीखिए. So we see this model either being successful or being a good person. Right? So good person or successful achi, then we consider that person as success. Sorry, our model. So this is the individual, and then the individual will mimic or individual will follow the person's actions. Okay. And after following, this is the outcome. If the outcome is same as he had expected, then this will get reinforced. Okay. This is the theory of social learning. So let's try to see what
सर
this
आउथरे
means.
से सोशल लर्निंग रा साइकोलैटिक के आउथरे
देखो इंडिविजुअल जणा अछि, सपोज यू आर द इंडिविजुअल, we are seeing how केमति value education or value learning केमति होउची. So whoever you consider to be your model, okay, and this person is another person, this is not you. This person might be a good person or a successful person, okay, in your eyes. Suppose success or definition will be different, but for you, if this person is successful, you will watch this person, you will observe this person, and setme yaku observational learning कहा जाए. Observational learning. एतरे बहुत सारा theory अछि, don't need to go into detail. For example, different stages अछि, attention, retention, production, motor activity, ये सब जिनसे don't need to go into detail. But the point is, what केमति cycle केमति develop करियो. So this model को हमें observe करिया, right? And we will then follow or mimic the person. इसी जहाँ जहाँ action करले, we will follow that. And then depending on what is the outcome, suppose हमें तांको follow करके success पाया कथा, हमें भी success पाई गई. Then हमारा trust तांको ऊपर बढ़ियाला. Then further कौन that person will remain our model. But suppose we are not successful, either we can try again, we can change something. तापर भी suppose continuously successful न हो, ताले finally हमें कौन decide करियो कि this is not a good model. Then we can change our model. Okay. So this is the way social learning, how we learn values. Very simple thing. You see, you take a case of multi-level marketing, like Amway. तांकर entire, if you try to understand तांकर entire जो scam था ना, this is related to जो Ponzi scheme एटाको कहती. देखियो सेमानकर माने बहुत ह्यूज लेवल ला सेमाने एमते मॉडलिंग करियो ट्राई करी. तो गोटे मीटिंग डाकिबे सेमती ई वे, चलो किस तो कंपनी नाम नवा कथा नै, वीडियो कोठी वायरल हे गेला पुनी इशू हे जो. बट द पॉइंट इज माने बहुत बेसी मॉडलिंग करंती. दे फील कि माने मॉडल को नहीं आनले लोक माने तांको ऑब्जर्व करके इमिटेट करी, एंड विल गेट आवर आउटकम व्हिच इज for them to be successful, monetary success. Now my point is, observe on social learning ro core ho je modeling. Now they will show ki look, this person से भी तुम भलिया गोटा बहुत गरीब लेवल रो आसी गई, से केमती आज सक्सेसफुल हेचंदी by doing this kind of chain thing. So you also do this, you will also become successful. Now these people will do what? They will observe, they will start to follow this initially, और बहुत वर्ष धरि किछि आउटकम आसीबनी, but they will be माने पता को persistently कुआबो नाही, तुम कंटिन्यू करो. Finally it will happen that maybe 70 to 80% people will realize, you know, this is not a good thing, it may be economically sound model no. Then they will leave. Some 30% people who will maybe remain delusional for their life, they will continue, and hey, some of them also might become successful in that sense, right? But this is the value learning. Value learning कौन हला? Initially हम पाई only value थला success. तो हमें observe कलो जो लोग successful थला, observe करी successful हे गल तो भलो कथा. जदि न हलु ताले हम either model change कर दबु, और हमें value भी, some people will also change their value itself. ସେମାନେ कहे कि हमें ठीक अछि, हमें successful होबा, but एई way रे successful होबा नहीं. In some other way maybe they will start working harder in some other area. Maybe they will give up entirely on monetary things. ସେମାନେ कहे कि हम पई success रे definition अभी change ହେଇଛି, हमको तो भाई शांति दरकार. Okay. आमे आउ किछि ए सब मल्टी लेवल मार्केटिंग करि परियो. So all of these can work in social learning. Right? Let us take another example. गोटे example जंती मल्टी लेवल मार्केटिंग हला, जोडा को आमे कहलु कि स्कैम बोली. Another example you can say, for example, suppose corruption होउची. आमे गोटे नेगेटिव वे रे गोटे जिंस देखा, एथरे त आमे गोटे भलो जिंस कहले कि माने भलो लर्निंग हमको मिलला. एथरे किछि नेगेटिव लर्निंग वाला लोकन को भी देखिया. Suppose there is a lot of corruption in any service or any society, but ता ऊपर किछि एक्शन निया जाउ नै. No action is being taken. Now this will also work as a model, negative kind of model, and ताकू भी follow करी बेसी लोक corrupt हेबे. That means corruption level आउरी बढ़ी जो, and this is also happening. Right? Negative way रे भी काम करियो, माने both way रे it can work. So it depends on the model, it depends on the outcome. Right? So this is it सब गुडा होचे learning theories. Now there are second type of theory. This theory is something which is known as moral education. Now moral education in general means specifically हमें लोगों को morality कौन पढ़ेगा. Okay, so actually you are teaching people something. Now how you will teach people? There are many ways. For example, there is something which is known as Socratic dialogue. This is one practice. You can do this through ethical dilemmas. In fact, if you see our entire GS4 paper, this is entire our ethical dilemma through रे हम भी हमको जो section B डा हमको सिखाऊचे ना moral education हमको दूचे practical experience through रे तुम life रे this will also teach you, or someone can explicitly tell you कि this is my experience and this is how why or how you can be moral. Then group discussion through रे भी ही परियो. So there are many different ways in which directly teaching माने एठी पने school कथा कुआ होने. Moral education is not just limited to school. Moral education टी sense रे use करा है कि directly तुमको कुआ होची और directly you are experiencing something and then you are realizing कि okay this is ethical or this is unethical. For example, practical experience. Okay. तुम life रे किसी वोटे जिनसा है कि you realize कि मोर एटा भूल थिला. I had done some unethical work. Or you are realizing someone else maybe had done this and you had experienced the outcome and then you understand this is ethical or unethical. This is also an example of moral education. Right? Group discussion through रे. For group discussion कौन? Suppose maybe even family रे तुम, school रे, okay, workplace रे. Normal discussion through रे you also understand explicitly what is moral education. And finally, if we come to this part, this is a bit technical part. Socratic dialogue. Can anyone tell me what do you mean by Socratic dialogue? Anyone?
सर थेसिस एंटीथेसिस सिंथेसिस की
ना यार सेपटे कोडे Socratic dialogue very simple होची कि dialogue through रे. Suppose जेमती Socrates, how Socrates was teaching ethics to people was that he would grill the people, he would ask questions, people would answer, then तारो follow up question. Okay. एमितिया question ଆଉ answer through रे जो तांकर धीरे धीरे तांकर moral understanding को develop करिया. It is known as Socratic dialogue. For example,
dialectics.
yes. For example, he will say कि suppose in the case of आमे जो आज कथा होतले कि suppose गोटा जो free hugs कहि कि से झियोटी placard धरतला no some people are moral outrage होउची तांको तो आमे तांको संगे जे कि Socratic dialogue कहया आमे तांको कहया कि अच्छा भाई तुमको काहे कि राग लागुची तो से कहया कि आज्ञा देखंतु एटा होची हम कल्चर अगेंस्ट तो ये से कि अच्छा तुम कहो कि व्हाट इज आवर कल्चर फर्स्ट टू डिफाइन से कह देखंतु आम कल्चर हैला कि आमे नारी मान को सम्मान दवा पुरुष मान को भी सम्मान दवा समस्त सम्मान दवा देन तुम कह अच्छा जदि सम्मान दवा हमर कल्चर ताले से कि काहा को असम्मान दउतले और तुमे काहा को असम्मान दउछ इंसान कहे नहीं नहीं एमती जो हगिंग वगिंग ए सब जिनस आम कल्चर रे नाही सो एटा असम्मान ही होछ तो देन यू विल से कि अच्छा हग करया द्वारा तुमको असम्मान केमती हला स्पेसिफिकली सपोज शी इज हगिंग समवन एल्स how is it an insult to you. So gradually through this kind of level by level the person will come to understand कि okay actually यार point किसी नतला मु खाली रही offended है गली right. Similarly, you think of any topic you see, Socratic dialogue तुम निजे भी यदि करे, you will be able to understand कि which is the right thing to do. Suppose on even any controversial topic, okay. Suppose you are saying कि you are thinking कि whether there should be ଆଉ କିଛି भी controversial topic को କିଛି भी normal କିଛି ଗୋଟେ topic को
homosexual.
homosexuality
okay homosexuality whether that is ethical or unethical. Now someone will say कि no this is unethical. You will ask me भाई कौन भाई ना भाउच तो से सपोज कौन यार कौन आर्गुमेंट हे पारे यू टेल मी देन वी विल डू सॉक्रेटिक डायलॉग माने just as an example no one is accusing anyone of anything we are just trying to understand so why should it be unethical. Can someone tell me what a reason there.
सर
Sir, it doesn't result in procreation.
Okay, very good. Now you tell me why is everything ending in procreation considered to be ethical. हमें काहे कहया कि सब जोटा procreation रे end हबो सेटा ethical. Suppose you are happily doing something तुम पेंटिंग करछो that is also not ending in procreation. So why should we ban it. भाबो काउंटर किछि भाबो कोन ही पारे.
No, I was talking about why the LGBTQ marriage ର time
हाँ
ମିଳୁନି
I understood.
हाँ
तो
तो
ମୁଁ ସେ କହୁଛି
marriage
कि suppose
तो marriage ର main objective is to procreate as per the
okay again see yes now here I will dispute you. Now I'll say कि who said this कि the end of or objective of marriage is procreation or the objective and end goal of marriage should it be procreation or should it be a harmonious family, should it be a family which is mane happy with each other. And again, if you are saying okay, it should be happy with each other, what is your definition of family? Suppose you are saying my definition is family ki bahala par there should be there should be children. Now I will say why is it so कि there should be children? Without children, can there be not be a family? There are many families where children are they in any way inferior to other families? So see, our point is not to finally deduce ki actually whether it is ethical or unethical. Did you understand the methodology? This is Socratic dialogue. माने you will ask someone question, they will say कि प्रथमे ସେମାନେ ତାଙ୍କ judgment ଟା ଦେଇଦେବେ, ତୁମେ ତାପରେ ତାକୁ pursue କରିବ, ତୁମେ ତାକୁ analysis କରିକି ତାକୁ କହିବ କି ତୁମେ ଭାବ କି କାହିଁକି ଏଇ ଜିନିଷଟା ତୁମେ ଭାବୁଛ। So ଏଇ ଯୋଉ exchange ହବ question and answering, ତା through it will become clear ki whether something is ethical or unethical. Right? This is known as Socratic dialogue. Similarly, there are many ways of value clarification. Value clarification माने कौन? माने होची distinguishing between different values, or whether which value is correct and which value is wrong. Okay, so that is known as value clarification. And if you look at this, there are many other methods of verification also. जहाँ थ्रू हमें value education होची. For example, there is a very well known method known as role playing. This was given by one person, researcher known as Moreno. There is our very well known theory brainstorming. Brainstorming through रे भी हमें कर परिया कि नहीं. This was given by Osborne. Right. There is debate and discussion in itself. I might discuss for you, which is also similar to Socratic dialogue. So value clarification केमती हो? For example, talk about brainstorming. So we'll brainstorm different ideas under each value, and we will try to understand ki how are two values different. For example, if someone is saying ki sympathy and empathy, so you brainstorm and you generate lots of ideas and you try to understand ki what is the difference. Debate and discussion, you know ki debate and discussion through also you'll be able to understand ki what is okay, what is ethical, what is unethical. Anyone wants to say something? Audio on. Okay. And finally, this role playing. Role playing रो माने कौन देखो? Role playing रो कौन करे? This is a very typical technique. Here actually what a drama type रो, and this is known as psychodrama. एथरे कौन हबो? ए ड्रामा रे कौन करा हबो? से लोक मानु को हबो जहा को हम वैल्यू इनकलकेट करिया को चाहू ताको हमें कहबो कि you play certain role. Okay. And others, there will be other supporting actors who will try to complement this person. And through this drama or dialogue through re, the person at the end of the drama will understand ki what was the different values, and तार सेतरे mental clarity भी आसियो. For example, this is a very well known therapy also. For example, suppose one person is depressed or anxious or for some reason the person is unable to differentiate between what is a good thing to do in his or her life. So what we'll do is we'll say, let us create a drama on your life in which you are playing your own role, and आमे कहे कि तुम्हें ड्रामा करके दिखाओ कि what do you think. Suppose तामे तक कहे you will give you complete freedom, you write your own script. Then this person will come to the stage and he will say कि मु actually ना मु କରିବାକୁ चाहूची इंजीनियर सॉरी मु କରିବାକୁ चाहूची पेंटर होବାକୁ चाहूची, बट मोर पेरेंट्स माने कहउचंदी कि नाही तते इंजीनियर होବାକୁ अछि कि डॉक्टर होବାକୁ अछि. नाउ सपोर्टिंग एक्टर माने जो माने थे से माने त बापार के रोल करतो कि नाही तो हेई परिबनी तो पछरे मु बहुत पैसा इन्वेस्ट करछि. Now gradually through this dialogue this person will understand कि ये जो value टा से internalize कर दिला, this was not his own value. This value of becoming an engineer or doctor, this was the value given by his father. Then this mental clarity through it, he can overcome this kind of bias, and he man तारो life or decisions it नहीं परियो. So here he is able to differentiate between different values. For example, what is the intrinsic value of this person and what was an instrumental value. And if this person understands that this was only an instrumental value, intrinsic value तो मोर किसी अलग ही थिला, then it is possible that the person will change his or her life. Right? This is the method of role playing given by Moreno. Now finally, some current affairs वाला point you can write. For example, कौन कौन है थीटा, these are all value addition. Value addition माने कौन? Value addition माने कि suppose one person is saying कि Okay, you don't write also fine. The extra mark you can write a few things related to value education. Now, value education, if you see what are the case studies, successful case studies, or in general case study क्या mention कर परियो. Delhi government school ले समाने introduce करछन किछि नुआ जिंस. For example, गोटे देशभक्ति curriculum करछन. Now, a curriculum रो कौन value से impact करूची? You can guess. Patriotism, national integration, as well as fraternity or common brotherhood, right? So you can write about these values. देशभक्ति curriculum रे. सेमती तांकर गोटे happiness curriculum अछि. Happiness curriculum रो Delhi government school रो गोटे part होची which is moral education also. How through moral education we can be more happy. Here you can give example कि happiness curriculum भी अछि. तो Delhi government under रे ये सब case study आछि. देशभक्ति curriculum और happiness curriculum. Right. Similarly, you can also write about national curriculum framework, NCF. This is a part of National Education Policy 2020. Under this includes actually moral education, and specifically this talks about moral education in terms of three components. One component is ethical reasoning or moral reasoning. Ethical reasoning. So ethical reasoning माने पिलांक भितरे critical thinking ability को develop करिया और logical analysis. And सेटा through रे तांकर internalize करिया this ability to distinguish between right and wrong. Okay. Ethical reasoning. The other component of this is they are also trying to teach traditional Indian values. Which are the traditional Indian values? For example, they are teaching some Gandhian values. Gandhian value किछि कोन अछि या भितरे ए सब जिंस लेखा अछि, इंप्लीमेंट होउछि कि नै अलग कथा, बट लेखा अछि. सेवा, अहिंसा, शांति, स्वच्छता, and there are some other cultural values. Cultural values कौन कौन अछि? For example, traditional Indian values भितरे respect to elders. सेमती निष्काम कर्म को भी पकई दिछि गीतार. Apart from that, there are also many basic human and constitutional values. कौन कौन basic human and constitutional values रखछन्ती? Tolerance, diversity, gender sensitivity. So all of these they are saying that we are going to implement in our children. Sorry, we are going to teach our children. So these three national curriculum framework, moral education plus Delhi government initiative, all of these will work as value addition. Yes, any doubt? Doubt किछि अछि? Otherwise यार गोटे लास्ट गोटे पार्ट केवल बळी छै चैप्टर रो, सेटा होची sorry lessons from the lives and teachings of great leaders, reformers, and our कौन administrators. या ऊपर हम शॉर्ट नोट बनी कि मते मन पकाओ. I will provide you the PDF. तेरे बुझियार सेमती किछि नै, just a list of case studies. In general भी एमती कोर्स सरी आगु I will give you some PDF. ठीक अछि. So case study रो compilation कर देले you will be understand कि leader, reformer और administrator मान example दवा. For example, leaders मान example हवा लाल बहादुर शास्त्री, Abraham Lincoln, Churchill. So you just give one or two examples, very short examples. Remember that, revise that, exam में जहाँ से वो लिख दो. Reformers, for example, Ram Mohan Roy. Reformers like Savitri Bai Phule, Jyotiba Bai Phule. Okay. like B.R. Ambedkar, administrators like Kiran Bedi, S. Sankaran, ठीक है, प्रशांत नायर, सगयम, एमाने सब एमानकर सब एग्जांपल्स दबा एज एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर. दे प्लीज रिसेंट एग्जांपल्स दबानी टीना डाबी अथरा मी एमानकर एग्जांपल दबानी. Some classic examples sort of which is more widely accepted. Okay. So I'll provide a compilation or a PDF provide kar debi. Otherwise, this chapter is completed. Ethics and human interface. So any doubts so far? If you have any doubts, please ask.
सर मोराल्स ଆଉ ଭ୍ୟାଲୁ ଭିତରେ କଣ ଡିଫରେନ୍ସ ଟିକେ କହିବେ?
Morals or values? Very good. Hang on a second. Moral is a relatively broader term. Value is a relatively narrower term and more specific. Okay. Moral and values. And specifically, moral hochi broader, generic. Value hochi narrower than specific. Okay. For example, moral, whether a person is moral or immoral, that is a very broader term, right? Whether you have any specific values, whether you are punctual, whether you are honest, whether you have integrity, whether you have compassion, these are all specific points. The point is, if you have more positive values, then it is likely that you will become a moral person. If you have more negative values, then you will become an immoral person. So that is the difference, very simple difference. Any other questions?
सर गोटे जनरल डाउट ଥିଲା आंसर राइटिंग रिगार्डिंग
Mhm.
कि माने ଯେତେବେଳେ ମୁଁ କିଛି ନ ଜାଣିକି ଲେଖୁଛି ତ ମୋର ଅଟୋମେଟିକଲି ଏମିତି ଫ୍ଲୋ ହୋଇଯାଉଛି ମାନେ ଆଇଡିଆ ପରେ ଆଇଡିଆ ଆସୁଛି ବଟ୍ ଯେତେବେଳେ ମୁଁ ମାନେ ଗୋଟେ ଜିନିଷ ପଢିଛି ସପୋଜେଟଲି ସେଇ ଟପିକ ଉପରେ ଗୋଟେ କ୍ୱେଶ୍ଚନ ଆସିଲା ତ ମୋର ମାନେ ମେଣ୍ଟାଲ ବ୍ଲକ୍ ହେଇଯାଉଛି ମତେ ଲାଗୁଛି ଆଚ୍ଛା ୟାର ନେକ୍ସଟ ପଏଣ୍ଟ କଣ ଥିଲା ୟାର ନେକ୍ସଟ ପଏଣ୍ଟ କଣ ଥିଲା ମାନେ ମୋର ଆଇଡିଆ
Yes.
ସେତେ ଫ୍ଲୋ ହଉନି ମାନେ
When you
ଏଇଟା
asked very excellent question.
ମୋର କାଉଣ୍ଟର ପ୍ରଡକ୍ଟିଭ ହେଇଯାଉଛି ମୁଁ ଯେତେ ପଢୁଛି ମୋର ମାନେ ସ୍ପିଡ କମି ଯାଉଛି
ସେଇଟା କଥା ନୁହଁ ମୁଁ ତୁମକୁ ଗୋଟେ କଥା କହିଲି ଡୁ ରିମେମ୍ବର ଦିସ୍ ଅର୍ ନଟ୍ ଆମେ ଷ୍ଟାର୍ଟିଂ ରେ କେତେ ସାରା ଆନ୍ସର ରାଇଟିଂ କ୍ଲାସ କଲୁ ଇଭେନ୍ ଟେଲ୍ ନାଉ ବହୁତ ସାରା ଜିନିଷ ମୁଁ ମଝିରେ ମଝିରେ ତୁମକୁ ପଏଣ୍ଟ ଗୁଡା କହୁଛି many people said କି ଆମର ମେଣ୍ଟାଲ ବ୍ଲକ୍ ମାନେ ନାହିଁ ଆଉ my point was I had in those classes one thing I had told you କି ପିଲାମାନେ ସବୁବେଳେ ନଲେଜ ଉପରେ ଫୋକସ କରନ୍ତି ଆମେ ଏଇ ଫ୍ରେମୱାର୍କ ରେ ଡିସ୍କସ କରୁଥିଲୁ ନା attitude skill and knowledge so ପିଲାମାନେ ସବୁବେଳେ ନଲେଜ ଉପରେ ଫୋକସ କରିବେ ତମେ ଭାବିବ କି ମୁଁ କେମିତି ପଢି ଦେଇକି ଆନ୍ସର ଲେଖିବି but actually whether you clear this exam or not will not depend on your knowledge it will actually depend on attitude and skill whether you have answer writing skill whether you have the attitude to attempt all the question in all the time and that champion mindset ତମ ଭିତରେ ଅଛି କି ନାହିଁ ତ ବେଳେ ବେଳେ କଣ ହୁଏ knowledge ପାଇଁ ବି ଆମର mental block create ହୁଏ in the sense କି suppose ତମେ ବହୁତ ସାରା ଜିନିଷ ପଢି ଦେଇଛ ତାପରେ ତମେ ଭାବିବ କି यार ମତେ ଏଇ ଟପିକ ଟା ଉପରେ ପଢିବାର ଥିଲା ନ ପଢିଲେ ମୁଁ କଣ ଲେଖିବି ମତେ ଜଣା ନାହିଁ बट इन दैट केस जो पिलाटा रादर बेसी पढ़ी नथियो जो जी एटीट्यूड और स्किल दर बहुत भलो डेवलप करथियो से बहुत फ्लूइड वे रे दे कैन राइट ए गुड क्वेश्चन मु कोनी एक्सीलेंट क्वेश्चन सॉरी गुड आंसर would लिखियो एंड एई भला 20 टा गुड आंसर लिखि देकी आसियो व्हेरेज यू वुड हैव रिटन 16 एक्सीलेंट आंसर्स आउ तीन चार टा क्वेश्चन भितरु मे बी तुमे गोटे दुईटा क्वेश्चन छाडी देथियो आउ दुईटा क्वेश्चन किछि भी हाफाजार्ड वे रे लिखिथियो so it is likely that this person will get more marks than you so my point is that ଆମେ ତ ଏତେ ସାରା ପ୍ରାକ୍ଟିସ କଲୁ ଆମେ ମୁଁ ତ ଏବେ ତ ସବୁ ନଲେଜ ହିଁ ଚାଲିଛି ବଟ୍ ଇଫ୍ ୟୁ ଆର୍ ହାଭିଂ ଏନି ସଚ୍ କାଇଣ୍ଡ ଅଫ୍ ଇସ୍ୟୁ ଗୋ ବ୍ୟାକ୍ ଟୁ ଆୱାର ପ୍ରିଭିୟସ୍ ନୋଟ୍ସ ପ୍ରଥମ ଦୁଇଟା କ୍ଲାସର ଯାହା ଯାହା ବି ନୋଟ୍ ହେଇଥିଲା ନା ମୁଁ ଏଇଟା ଜିଏସ୍ ପିଲାଙ୍କ ପାଇଁ କହୁଛି ତ ତାଙ୍କର ପ୍ଲିଜ ଗୋ ଥ୍ରୁ ଦ ନୋଟ୍ ଆଟିଟ୍ୟୁଡ ଆଣ୍ଡ ସ୍କିଲ୍ ବାଲାର ବି ଜିନିଷ ତମେ ଦେଖ ଆଣ୍ଡ ଡେଭଲପ ଦୋଜ ପ୍ରାକ୍ଟିସେସ୍ ମେଣ୍ଟାଲ ବ୍ଲକ୍ ହଟାଇବା ପାଇଁ ଯାହା ଯାହା ଇସ୍ୟୁ ଥିଲା ବାଇ ଦ ୱେ ଯୋଉମାନେ ଏଥିକ୍ସ ଓନ୍ଲି କ୍ଲାसेसର ପିଲା ଅଛନ୍ତି ଫର୍ ଦେମ୍ ଅଲସो ଏଟ୍ ଦ ଏଣ୍ଡ ଅଫ୍ ଦ କୋର୍ସ ୱିଲ୍ ଟେକ୍ ଏ लास्ट क्लास रे हम डिस्कस करिया किछि आंसर राइटिंग आउ किछि जिंस फाइनली विल आल्सो डिस्कस होबे सेतल जहा जहा डाउट थिबो यू कैन आस्क बट द आंसर टू यू इज हमर तीनटा यू शुड बी हैप्पी कि देखो तुम पाखे नॉलेज अछि स्किल अछि एटीट्यूड अछि जो 16 टा क्वेश्चन ने नॉलेज काम होछि त नॉलेज बेसिस रे आखि बुझी लिखि दियो जो 4 टा क्वेश्चन ने नॉलेज आसुन नॉलेज को गोली मारो एटीट्यूड और स्किल बेस रे से रिवाइज करके हमर जहा नोट थिला ताको रिवाइज करके जस्ट अटेम्प्ट द क्वेश्चन एनी हाउ and always that's why I also keep on telling you ki don't be a perfectionist do it badly but do it आ भी गोटे कथा तुमको से स्टार्टिंग रू कहती कि फेल अर्ली, फेल ऑफन, फेल ऑनेस्ट, राइट? दिस इज द पॉइंट. फेल अर्ली, फेल ऑफन, नॉट फेल ऑनेस्ट. ऑनेस्टली फेल हो. सपोज एबे आंसर राइटिंग खराब आंसर भी लिखुछ, इट इज ओके. आई प्रिफर कि तुम गोटे खराब आंसर लिखियो रादर देन कि जणे टोटली किछि एफर्ट न देई कोठो ओनली कॉपी पेस्ट करी. चलो किछि क्वेश्चन तो मु तुमको ऑलरेडी कहि दउची, एटा तुम कॉपी करके देखो बिकॉज़ रिसर्च करके लिखो बोली. बिकॉज़ मे बी से क्वेश्चन टा मु पढ़े नहीं क्लास रे, तो आई वांट कि तुम रिसर्च करके लिखो. बट जोटा एक्सप्लिसिटली मु मेंशन करनी, देयर यू शुड राइट ऑनेस्ट. जहां मन रो आछि लिखो. आई सी कि सम पीपल आर राइटिंग पूरा वेरी परफेक्ट आंसर्स, पूरा पूरा लंबा चौड़ा आंसर लिखुचंती. तुम जानि पारछि कि एटा ऑनेस्टली सन लिखि ना. ठीक अछि. Who are you fooling? You are fooling yourself only. It is better कि right now you fail rather than that you fail in the exam. So all of these failure, this should come in the practice. In the final exam you should succeed. Right? This is the goal. So जेति रे तुम्हारो knowledge अछि सेतिटा knowledge basis रे कर दियो. जोटा knowledge जो चारटा तीन चारटा क्वेश्चन knowledge रे ही पार. Just remove that mental block. Do brainstorming. Write a few points. अल्प लिखो but exact लिखो. Then move on to the next point. Okay, next question. Don't worry too much कि मोर एटा excellent answer हो नहीं. Okay.
ये सर आंसर राइटिंग सर एथिक्स रे जीएस टाइप रही जाउची, तो निजको
Ethics रे भी
सैटिस्फैक्शन लागुनी.
ना निजर satisfaction तो केबे भी आसीयो. Okay. Even what I am teaching, I feel कि अरे एटा भी आहुरी 10 times 20 times better करी होंदा. But that is the whole point ना. The satisfaction of perfectionist one. But point is whether you are writing good or bad, you can even show us ना. तो show us हमें ताको correction करिया, जहाँ ता issue होची तार correction करिया. Finally when you are going to the exam hall, it is immaterial if your knowledge is incomplete, and knowledge will always be incomplete. But my point is तुम skill और attitude सेतले बहुत भलो develop हो जिवार अछि. Then तुमे जो answer लिखियो that will be better than other people's answer. तो ठीक अछि, जदी ethics answer भी GS भलिया होछि किछि issue नाही, सेमति बहुत बेसी issue नाही. तो you show us the answer, जहाँ feedback दिया होछि ता ऊपर काम करो, that will work. Okay. Some people are only showing the copies but feedback ऊपर काम करना नहीं. किछि point हबनी से सेम जिंस बार बार लिखियो 100 थर, से सेम मिस्टेक एग्जाम रे भी करियो. Work on your feedbacks. Any other question? How is your question?
सर गुड
सर
Yes, Suchi or someone, I think. Yes, quite. Gender justice, ଆମେ ତାଙ୍କୁ ଆଗ priority ଦବା because patriarchal society. Yes.
सर ଯୋଉ ଗୋଟେ ମୁଭି ଆସିଲା ଥାଲାଇ କଥା ସେନି ସାଇଡ ଉପରେ, ସେଇଟାକୁ ଆମେ ମାନେ ଏଥିକାଲ କିନ୍ତୁ ଇଲିଗାଲ ସେଇଟାର ଏକ୍ସାମ୍ପଲ ଦେଇପାରିବା କି?
କାହା ଉପରେ ଆସିଥିଲା?
ସାର୍ ଯୋଉ ମାନେ ଥାଲାଇ କୁଥାଲ ମୁଭିଟା ଆସିଥିଲା ସେନି ସାଇଡ ଉପରେ, ମାନେ ତାଙ୍କୁ ମାନେ ତାଙ୍କ ପେରେଣ୍ଟସ୍ଙ୍କ ପ୍ରତି ଲଭ୍ ଆଉ କେୟାର ତାଙ୍କର ଅଛି, କିନ୍ତୁ ଯେହେତୁ ସେମାନେ ବହୁତ ବିମାର ଅଛନ୍ତି ତ ସେ ତାଙ୍କୁ ମାନେ ମାରି ଦଉଛନ୍ତି ତାଙ୍କର ଛୁଆ ମାନେ, ତ
ଏତେ
ସେଇଟା ଦେଇହବ?
ସ୍ପେସିଫିକ ଏକ୍ସାମ୍ପଲ ଲେଖିବ ମୋଷ୍ଟ probably ସେ ଏକ୍ସାମିନର ଜାଣିନଥିବେ. तो तुम्हें इतने स्पेसिफिक एग्जांपल काहे के लिखियो? डोंट राइट such great specific example. Write some generic points. Euthanasia case, for example, if you are writing about euthanasia case, the best known case of that is which case? Aruna Shonbag case. Very famous case. She was a nurse. She was actually sexually assaulted and ସେଥିରେ ତାପରେ ସେ coma କୁ ଚାଲିଗଲେ. After that she was ମାନେ her family appealed to the court कि तांको दे दिया euthanasia ପାଇଁ allow कराओ. तो सुप्रीम कोर्ट इन दैट केस सेड कि ना हमें केस बाय केस बेसिस रे डिसाइड करिया. एक्टिव यूथानेसिया, पैसिव यूथानेसिया ता भितर से डिफरेंशिएट कले बहुत सारे जिंस अछि. डोंट नीड टू गो इनटू डिटेल, बट इन द यूथानेसिया केस यू कैन सिंपली राइट अबाउट अरुणा शॉनबर्ग केस. एबे तुम आउ को केस कथा लिखो, इट इज लाइकली दैट द पर्सन विल नॉट नो कि को केस विषय लिखो. आउ एते स्पेसिफिक मूवी व्हिच इज आल्सो नॉट ए मेजर मूवी को साउथ इंडिया रो गोटा मूवी, तो वी डोंट नो, एग्जामिनर विल नॉट नो. एते स्पेसिफिक जिंस ऑब्सक्योर जिंस लिखो, major things are you can see, you can write unique concepts, you can write other GS paper रो तुम idea लिख परियो है ना, you can write current affairs topics लिख परियो, but एते specific तुम मूवी रो रेफरेंस ले, मूवी रेफरेंस ले सामान जानि पारि. 45-50 वर्ष रो लोक माने से माने कोन बुझे तुम कह. एते typical example. Yes, someone else was asking a question. Chandan, I think.
ନା ସାର୍ ମୋର ଗୋଟେ ରିକ୍ୱେଷ୍ଟ ଥିଲା କି ଗୋଟେ କେସ୍ ଷ୍ଟଡି ଲେଖିବାକୁ ଦେବେ କି?
କାହା ଉପରେ ମୁଁ ବୁଝି ପାରିଲିନି.
ଏମିତି ଆପଣ ଯୋଉ କ୍ୱେଶ୍ଚିନ୍ ଦିଅନ୍ତି ସେଥିରେ ଗୋଟେ କେସ୍ ଷ୍ଟଡି ଦେଇଥାନ୍ତେ ବୋଲି ରିକ୍ୱେଷ୍ଟ କରୁଥିଲି।
अरे ଆମର ତ ଦୁଇଟା କ୍ଲାସ୍ କେସ୍ ଷ୍ଟଡି ଉପରେ ହିଁ ଅଛି and ତାପରେ ବି I will also give you extra case study. Okay, but if people will request me ଆଉ ଅଧିକା କେସ୍ ଷ୍ଟଡି ଦେଇତେ ମତେ କିଛି ଇସ୍ୟୁ ନାହିଁ, ଲେଖିବାର ପ୍ରୋବ୍ଲେମ ତୁମର ହିଁ ହବ ବିକଜ କେସ୍ ଷ୍ଟଡି ଆର ମାନେ ଟିକେ ଲମ୍ବା ଲେଖିବାକୁ ପଡେ। ଠିକ ଅଛି, ଆଜି ଏଇଟା ହେଲା, ଆଜି ଏଇ କ୍ଲାସ୍ ହେଲା ନା, ଚलो ଆଜି ତ ଏଇ ଟପିକ ଉପରେ ହିଁ ଦେବି ମୁଁ। ଠିକ ଅଛି, एंड ଯେତେବେଳେ କଣ କି ଯୋଉ ଟପିକ ଗୁଡା ଚାଲୁଛି ନା, ସ୍ପେସିଫିକାଲି ସପୋଜ ନେକ୍ସଟ ଟପିକରେ ଆମେ ଆଟିଟ୍ୟୁଡ ପଢିବା, ଆଟିଟ୍ୟୁଡ ଉପରେ କେସ୍ ଷ୍ଟଡି ମୁଁ କୋଉଠୁ ବାହାର କରିବି? ଭ୍ୟାଲ୍ୟୁଜ ଉପରେ ବି ବହୁତ ଇନଡାଇରେକ୍ଟଲି କେସ୍ ଷ୍ଟଡି ବାହାରିବ। ଓକେ, ରାଦର ବେସିକ କେସ୍ ଷ୍ଟଡି ବାହାରିବ ଯୋଉ ଅଲରେଡି ଶୁଭମ ସାର୍ ଯୋଉଟା ପଢେଇ ଦେଇଛନ୍ତି, ଫାଉଣ୍ଡେସନାଲ ଭ୍ୟାଲ୍ୟୁଜ ଫର ସିଭିଲ ସର୍ଭିसेସ୍, ଓକେ, ଏଥିକ୍ସ ଇନ୍ ଗଭର୍ନାନ୍ସ, ଏଇ ସବୁ ଜିନିଷରେ ବାହାରନ୍ତା। ବଟ୍ ଡୋଣ୍ଟ वरी, ଆମେ ଡେଡିକେଟେଡଲି ଦୁଇଟା କ୍ଲାସ୍ କେସ୍ ଷ୍ଟଡି ଉପରେ ରଖିଛୁ and ତାପରେ ବି ମୁଁ ତୁମକୁ ଏକ୍ସଟ୍ରା ଆସାଇନମେଣ୍ଟ keep on giving you. And in any case, the support for this ethics class also it extends till the exam. तो एग्जाम भितर भी तुम जहाँ जहाँ लिखुच, यू कैन आल्सो सेंड दोस केस स्टडी गुडा भी हमको लिखिके पठे पारियो। इन जनरल केस स्टडी क्लास पर भी तुमको केस स्टडी दिया करियो, प्रीवियस ईयर केस स्टडीज हम सब देखिए क्लास में मुझे लाइव सॉल्व करी, तो कला परे तुमरो सेमति किसी डाउट रहइबा, डोंट वरी, विल प्रैक्टिस एनफ केस स्टडीज। राइट नाउ एबे कोन हम सेक्शन 8 को सारुते, एक्चुअली सेक्शन बी टा होची एप्लीकेशन ऑफ सेक्शन ए। सेक्शन बी ए रे जदि बहुत सारा कांसेप्ट्स जानी गलो, आइडियाज तुम डेवलप ही गला, then you can apply to section B. That is our whole point. ता बाद भी तुम मन न पड़ला आहुरी बहुत लिखार इच्छा अछि, तो come to me, I will give you n number of case studies to write. ठीक है, don't worry. Any other doubts? I think we should wrap it up. It's 9 o'clock already. Okay, ମୁଁ देखी नथली टाइम, ମୁଁ आज बहुत आराम से जाउछि। ठीक है, so that's it guys. Thank you very much. We'll meet our schedule तो दिया है I think. So पर दिन अछि बोले तुम next class. Right? Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir. Friday ଅଛି।
ठीक ଅଛି, ठीक ଅଛି, तो पर दिन ଆମର ଅଛି attitude meet again।
Attitude।
ठीक है, ठीक है, okay, take care guys।